A black car slowly approaches the tall iron gates. The gates open silently. The car enters the grounds and stops next to a large stone house. The engine turns off. Kim Taeyong sits in the back seat, motionless. He looks out the window. There's not a single light in the house. Only the streetlights in the yard illuminate it. He closes his eyes again. Today has been a long and difficult day. Constant conversations, calculations, the need to control every word. He feels a heavy fatigue throughout his body. He opens his eyes, and his face becomes calm and firm again. He pushes the door and steps outside. The evening air is chilly. He doesn't turn around to look at the driver. He walks toward the front door. He inserts the key into the lock and turns it. The door opens. He steps inside. The hallway is dark and quiet. He flicks the switch. A small lamp on the wall comes on. He hangs his keys on the hook, the sound of the metal keys jingling loudly in the silence. He takes off his black coat and hangs it in the closet. Underneath, he wears a dark suit. He adjusts the sleeve of his shirt. He walks down the hallway toward his office. His steps clatter loudly on the wooden floor. He doesn't call out to anyone. There are no other people in the house. He enters the office and turns on the light. The large room is illuminated by the soft glow of the lamps. His large desk, chair, and bookshelves are here. He throws his briefcase on the sofa. He goes to the window and looks out into the dark garden. He stands there for a few minutes, thinking about the past day. Then he turns and sits down in the chair at the table. He doesn't open the computer. He doesn't pick up any papers. He just sits in silence. The house is so quiet that the ticking of the large wall clock in the hallway can be heard. The sound emphasizes the silence even more. He pours himself a glass of water from the carafe on the table and drinks it slowly. He looks at the opposite wall, but doesn't see it. He simply rests in the silence of his empty house. A woman quietly enters the house through the back door from the courtyard. It's Ayanda, the cleaning lady. She carefully closes the door behind her. She stands in the dark and listens. The house is quiet. She knows the owner is home. She saw his car in the garage. She hopes he's already asleep or busy in his study. Today she had a problem. Her little daughter, Jimin, couldn't be left alone. Ayanda wrapped the sleeping girl in a warm blanket and brought her with her. She carefully places her large bag of rags and cleaning supplies on the floor. Then she carefully places her daughter, wrapped in a blanket, on the old sofa in the hallway. The 4-year-old girl is fast asleep and hasn't woken up. She's clutching a toy bunny. Ayanda looks at her daughter and worries. She knows she shouldn't do this, but she had no other choice. She leans over and quietly whispers to the sleeping girl, "Sleep, Jimin. Mom is here. Don't get up from this couch, okay?" Then she straightens the blanket, picks up her bag, and walks down the hallway. She needs to start cleaning in the office. It's the most important room. Jimin wakes up cold. She opens her eyes and sees not her small room, but a high, dark ceiling. She's lying on an unfamiliar couch. Her mother is gone. She sits up and rubs her eyes. It's quiet and dark all around. Only one lamp dimly illuminates the corridor. She becomes afraid. "Mom?" she calls quietly. No one answers. She gets off the couch. Her bare feet touch the cold floor. She holds her bunny in her arms. She remembers her mother going somewhere with a bag. The girl hears a faint sound in the distance. A familiar sound. Her mother moving something. Jimin follows the sound. She walks slowly down a long, dark corridor. She enters a large room with large windows. The living room. There's no one here. The sound comes from behind the next door. The door is slightly open. Jimin approaches and peers inside. She sees her mother. Her mother is standing with her back to the door, dusting a large table. The girl feels calmer. She doesn't enter the room. She stands by the door and looks at her mother. She wonders what this room is. Ayanda works diligently. She carefully dusts the large table. Then she carefully arranges all the items on the table exactly as they were before. She knows the owner of the house notices every detail. She doesn't hear her daughter standing at the door. She thinks Jimin is still fast asleep on the couch in the hallway. She doesn't have time to check. She has to work quickly and quietly. She dusts the bookshelves. Then she vacuums the large rug on the floor. The noise of the vacuum cleaner drowns out all other sounds. When she's finished, she turns off the vacuum. Silence falls. She looks around the room. Everything is clean. Everything is in its place. She nods, satisfied with her work. She gathers her rags and cleaning supplies into her bag. Then she leaves the office, quietly closing the door behind her. She heads to the kitchen to continue cleaning there. She doesn't see a small shadow flash across the office just before the door closed. Taeyong is sitting in his office, reviewing documents. Suddenly, his phone vibrates. He glances at the screen. There's an urgent matter that requires his immediate presence. It won't take long, but he needs to go now. He frowns. He doesn't want to leave the house again, but it's important. He gets up from the table, grabs his jacket, and leaves the office. He walks down the hallway, out the front door, and gets into the car. The car starts and drives out of the yard. The matter is resolved faster than he expected. 40 minutes later, his car pulls up to the house again. He's back earlier than planned. He re-enters the house, takes off his coat, and heads back to his office. He wants to finish his paperwork. When Ayanda left the office and closed the door, Jimin was already inside. The girl quickly slipped into the room as her mother turned to the vacuum cleaner. She wanted to hide and surprise her mother. She looked around. The room was large and solemn. She saw a large table. Under the table, it was dark and seemed like a good hiding place. She crawled under the table and curled up on the carpet. She felt warm and cozy. She hugged her bunny and waited. She heard her mother finish cleaning and leave. Then there was silence. Jimin began to doze under the table. Suddenly, she heard a sound. Not her mother's. It was heavy footsteps in the hallway. The footsteps were approaching the office door. The girl froze. She was frightened. Those were the footsteps of a stranger. She pressed herself against the table leg and closed her eyes tightly, hoping no one would see her. The door to the office opened. Taeyong enters the office and immediately stops. His hand is still gripping the doorknob. Something is wrong. He can't put his finger on it, but the air in the room is different. Not the same as the one he left half an hour ago. He slowly closes the door behind him. His eyes quickly scan the room. The light is on as he left it. The books on the shelves are straight. The table. His gaze lingers on the table. His table. The leather chair is pulled back from the table. Just a few centimeters, but it's pulled back. He always places it right next to it. He remembers that clearly. He takes a step forward. His face is expressionless, but inside, a familiar wariness is ignited. Someone has been here. He approaches the table and places his palm on the surface next to the chair. The wood is cool, clean, too clean. He notices a slight streak of dampness, the mark of a rag that hasn't yet had time to dry. The cleaning lady, Ayanda. She's working today, but she never stays this late. And she never disturbs the order, never moves his chair. He feels a slight irritation. His space, his sanctuary, has been violated. Another person's touch has lingered on his things. He stands still and listens. The house is quiet, but this silence now seems deceptive. Someone was here just now. Perhaps they are still here. Ayanda is standing in the kitchen, washing the sink. The water flows quietly. Suddenly, she hears a familiar sound, the front door slamming. Then heavy, confident footsteps in the hallway. He's back. Too early. Her heart skips a beat, then starts beating fast and loud. She wipes her hands and walks out of the kitchen into the hallway. She wants to slip quietly into the hallway, to the back door, pick up Jimin, and leave. But first, she glances toward the sofa, where she left her daughter. The sofa is empty. The blanket is crumpled and lying on the floor. A toy bunny is lying nearby. A cold wave of dread washes over Ayanda. Her legs go weak. "Jimin?" she whispers, but there's barely a sound. She turns and looks at the office door. It's closed. The master of the house's footsteps have faded. He's already inside. And then she understands. The curious little girl. The office door, slightly open as she left. The hum of the vacuum cleaner, drowning out all other sounds. "No," her lips whisper silently. "No, no, no." She can't move. She can't enter the office. She can't knock. She has no right to disturb him. The rules she's known by heart all these months bind her more tightly than chains. She approaches the door and presses her forehead against it. The wood is cold. She freezes, trying to breathe as quietly as possible, and listens. There is no sound from behind the door. Only the ticking of the large clock in the hallway, which now seems like a scream. Taeyong slowly releases the back of his chair. He steps away from the desk and begins to survey the room. His movements are calm and fluid. Like a predator who knows its prey is close, he walks along the bookshelves. His eyes glide over the spines of the books, over the small spaces between them. Nothing. He peers behind a tall floor lamp against the wall. No one. He approaches the large sofa against the far wall, slowly bends down and looks underneath. Only shadows and dust. The clock in the hallway loudly counts down the seconds. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The sound is now irritating him. It's preventing him from concentrating. He walks around the entire perimeter of the room, checks the space behind the curtains by the window. Nothing. The room is empty. but his instincts scream that it is not. The feeling of someone else's presence does not disappear. He returns to the center of the room, to his desk. Perhaps he imagined it. Perhaps Ayanda was simply in a hurry and accidentally bumped into the chair. He's about to sit up, but his gaze falls on the carpet at his feet. Something small and bright lies on the dark burgundy pile. Something that shouldn't be there. He bends down and picks it up. It's a button. A small plastic button. Bright yellow. It's warm, as if it's just been held in his hand. Taeyong slowly straightens up. He clutches the button in his palm. His eyes are now cold and sharp. He looks at his desk, at the massive tabletop and the dark space beneath it. He takes one silent step forward, then another. He's no longer simply checking the room. Now he's stalking. Taeyong stands 2 steps away from his desk. He peers into the darkness beneath the massive tabletop. At first, he sees only a shadow. Then his gaze catches a detail. A small fragment of fabric. Not dark, not the color that matches the carpet or the wood. Bright, light blue, with tiny white and blue speckles. The fabric doesn't lie still. It moves slightly, rhythmically and minutely, as if someone is breathing underneath it, or trembling. All doubts vanish. Someone is hiding under his desk. Someone small, judging by the size of the fold of fabric. His first thought is a trick, a ruse, some strange, unthinkable trap. But the yellow button in his hand and the child's calico tell a different story. This is not a professional spy or a hired killer. This is a child. The cold rage that had begun to rise within him fades, replaced by icy, pure bewilderment. How did a child get here? Who brought him? And most importantly, why? Thoughts race through his mind, but none find a logical explanation. He places the button in his pocket. He doesn't bend down. He doesn't try to peek. He speaks. His voice rings out sharply and loudly in the quiet office. There's no shouting in it, but there's steel. The same steel that makes grown men freeze. Come out! Now! No answer. Only the fabric under the table twitches more violently. A short, strangled sound is heard. A sob. Childish, frightened, real. Taeyong feels his irritation return, mingling with growing curiosity. Who is this child and why is he so afraid? He takes a half step forward, his shadow falling on that same bright fabric. I said, get out. I won't repeat it. There's a dangerous quiet in his voice now. He rarely raises his voice. More often than not, his quiet, even tone is more effective than shouting. He waits. A second. Another. A rustling sound comes from under the table, barely audible, and another quiet, ragged sigh. Someone there is gathering their courage. First, a hand appears. A small, dark hand that grasps the edge of the carpet. Its fingers clutch the pile. Then a second hand appears, still clutching something fluffy and mangy, the ear of a stuffed rabbit. Then a head slowly emerges from under the table. Dark, curly hair is tousled. Dust from the carpet is visible in it. Large, wide-open eyes, dark, almost black, stare straight at him, full of tears and animal fear. Then the whole face appears, a round, childish face with full cheeks, glistening with tear streaks. The nose is upturned, the lips trembling. A child, a little girl, about 4 years old, crawls out from under the table and kneels on the carpet. She's wearing a simple blue dress with white polka dots. A button is missing from one cuff. She's clutching her rabbit so tightly it seems about to burst. She stares at the enormous stranger blocking the light, unable to move or make a sound. Only her thin shoulders tremble slightly. Taeyong looks at her. He sees fear. He sees dust on her dress and in her hair. He sees the old, cheap toy in her hands. He sees a child, a perfectly ordinary, small, frightened child. No trickery, no threat, just pure, helpless panic. His own tension gradually fades, leaving only a profound, utter bewilderment. What should he do now? He hasn't the slightest idea. In his world, there are no protocols for finding a child under his desk. He expects her to cry, to scream, to run. But she simply sits on her knees and looks at him. Her fear gradually, millimeter by millimeter, begins to blend with curiosity. Her wet eyes study his face, his formal suit, his motionless posture. She glances at the table she had just been hiding behind, then back at him. He studies her too. He hasn't seen children this close. He can't even remember when. She doesn't look like a Korean child. Her features, skin color, hair texture, everything suggests a different origin, and that adds another layer of mystery. He looks at the bald spot on her hair, at the worn-out socks on her small feet. This is not a child from a wealthy family. A moment of silence stretches, filled only with the ticking of the clock. They both stand frozen in this strange, awkward pause, unsure who should make the first move, or what it should be. And she takes the first step. Her fear seems to recede before the overwhelming need for comfort, overwhelmed by the instinctive desire to seek protection. Perhaps she doesn't see his stillness as a direct threat. Perhaps the long silence seemed less frightening to her than the scream. She rises unsteadily from her knees. Her legs tremble slightly. She takes one small, wobbly step forward, then another. She doesn't take her eyes off him. Taeyong watches, still motionless, unsure of her intentions. He wonders if she wants to run past him toward the door, but she walks right up to him, stops so close that the hem of her dress brushes his trousers. She lifts her head to see his face, and her large eyes fill with tears again. But these aren't tears of panic this time, but something else. Loneliness? Longing? She drops her bunny onto the carpet. She wraps both arms around his leg, just above the knee. Her grip is surprisingly strong. She presses her cheek against the fabric of his pants, closes her eyes, and utters a single word, quietly, but perfectly clearly, in perfect Korean, without any accent. Dad? The word hits him like a physical blow to the solar plexus. The air leaves his lungs silently. His entire body goes numb. He loses the feeling of the floor beneath his feet, the weight of his own body. His ears begin to ring, drowning out the ticking of the clock. His brain refuses to accept it. He tries to process the word, make sense of it, find a logical connection. But he can't. It's impossible. It's absurd, It doesn't make any sense. He looks down at the dark curls of hair pressed against his leg. He feels the warmth of her cheek through the thin fabric. He feels the pressure of her small hands. He can't move. He can't pull away. He can't say a word. All his reactions, all his defense mechanisms, all his iron control, it all shatters against one simple, childish word. He stood frozen in absolute stillness. His mind, usually running at the frigid speed of a computer, was now empty, humming with a quiet white noise. The only thing he was aware of was the warmth emanating from the small creature that had called him Daddy, and the universe he had existed in until that moment cracked and began to slowly, irreversibly collapse. The word Daddy sounded as clearly behind the door as in the room. For Ayanda, her forehead pressed against the tree, it felt like a knife thrust. All her fear, all her rules, all her caution, all of it shattered under the impact of pure animal terror. He would find out. He would think. She couldn't even imagine what he would think. Only one thing was clear. Her daughter was in mortal danger. Not physical, perhaps, but something that could destroy their life here, deprive them of their jobs, their shelter, everything. She doesn't think. She acts. She pushes away from the door, grabs the handle, and gives it a sharp push. The wood hits the wall with a dull thud. She bursts into the office. Her eyes immediately find her daughter. Jimin stands, pressed against the man's leg, the same leg she had been hugging. Taeyong's face is frozen in mute, utterly blank shock. He doesn't even turn his head at the sound of the door opening. "Jimin!" Ayanda screams, her voice breaking with panic. The girl flinches and lets go of Taeyong. She turns to face her mother, a mixture of guilt and relief crossing her face. She takes a step toward her mother, but stops, casting another frightened glance at the motionless figure above her. Ayanda crosses the room in a few quick steps. She doesn't look Taeyong in the eye. She falls to her knees in front of her daughter, grabbing her by the shoulders, checking to see if she's safe and sound. "I'm sorry!" Her words burst out, hot and fast. "Bang, Taeyong! Forgive me! I beg you! It's my fault, mine alone!" She finally looks up at him. Her eyes are filled with tears, her face contorted with despair. She still holds Jimin in front of her, like a shield, like proof of her guilt. "She's my daughter. She's only 4 years old. She didn't mean any harm. I couldn't leave her alone today. I broke the rules. Punish me, fire me. But just please, Lee, she's just a child. She doesn't understand anything." She falls silent, gasping for breath. The room is silent again, but now it's broken by her heavy breathing and Jimin's quiet sobs, who finally begins to cry, frightened by her mother's panic. Taeyong slowly, very slowly, turns his head. His gaze shifts from the girl, now crying on her mother's shoulder, to Ayanda herself. He sees her tear-stained face, her trembling hands clutching the child's shoulders. He sees pure, uncontrollable terror, not of him as the boss, but of the possible consequences for her daughter. He takes a deep breath, the first since the shock. The air enters his lungs with effort. The ringing in his ears fades, replaced by the sounds of crying and the ticking of a clock. He doesn't say, "Calm down." He doesn't yell. He just watches. His mind finally starts working, gathering the facts. The cleaning lady, the child, the breaking of rules, fear. The word daddy. Why is she here? His voice sounds hoarse, monchishi, unfamiliar to him. He asks the simplest, most logical question. Ayanda flinches as if struck. She tries to compose herself, wiping her cheek with the back of her hand. The nanny didn't come today. Jameen had a slight fever this morning. I couldn't leave her alone in our room. She's so small. I thought she'd sleep. I put her on the couch in the hallway. I told her not to move. I had to start with the study so I could finish everything before you got back. I thought you'd be late. I didn't hear her come in. I was so focused on work. When I left, I closed the door and she trails off, swallowing the lump in her throat. I didn't know she was inside. I swear I didn't know. She lowers her head again, clutching her daughter to her. It was my negligence, my huge mistake. Please forgive her ignorance. She didn't mean to disturb you. She was simply scared and hid. Jimin, sobbing, wipes his nose on his mother's sweater and looks back at Taeyong. Her teary eyes are wide open. Taeyong listens. His expression doesn't change. He looks at Ayanda, then his gaze falls back to the girl. At her dust-stained dress, at the old toy that now lies on the carpet between them. He expected anger, expected her to scream, to fire her on the spot, to send them both away that very second. He would have done the same an hour ago. Logic and the rules dictated it, but the anger doesn't come. Instead, there's a strange, icy emptiness inside, an emptiness in which only one word floats, Daddy. And the sight of this little frightened girl, seeking protection from the first adult man she saw in the dark. He doesn't move toward them. He doesn't make any threatening gestures. He simply stands and watches. His analytical mind is now working on a new riddle. Why did she say that? She's not Korean. He's definitely not her father. Was it a mistake? Fright? But she said it so clearly, so deliberately. Ayanda freezes, seeing that he doesn't scream. Her panic doesn't subside, but it's mixed with bewilderment. She expected a storm. What she got was an icy, heavy silence. She doesn't know which is worse. She hugs Jimin tighter, ready to shield her at any moment. Taeyong slowly drops to one knee. The movement is unexpected and fluid. He's now almost level with the girl. He doesn't smile. His face remains serious and inscrutable. Jimin freezes, stopping his sobs. She looks at him from close range. Her eyes, large and wet, study every feature of his face. Taeyong speaks quietly, so quietly that Ayanda can barely hear. "Why did you say that?" he asks. His voice is now without the steel it once had. It's simply a question. "Why Daddy?" Ayanda freezes, her heart pounding. She wants to intervene, to explain, but she can't move. Jimin stares at him for a few seconds. Then her gaze slides past him, across the room. She lets go of her mother and takes a small step forward, toward Taeyong's desk. She points. Taeyong turns his head, following her gesture. On the edge of the table, next to the monitor, sits a simple wooden frame. Inside is a black and white photograph. The photograph depicts a man of about 50, wearing a formal, old-fashioned suit. His face is serious, his gaze direct and firm. It's Taeyong's father. The photograph has been there for years. Taeyong barely notices it. Jimin looks at the photo, then turns and looks back at Taeyong. She looks back at the photo, then she nods, as if confirming something to herself. "You look alike," she says in her quiet, clear voice. He has the same eyes, serious. And he also, she searches for the word, frowning. He stands up straight, like Dad. She says this with the simple, childish confidence of a child. For her, the connection is obvious. A similar-looking adult man in this house, in this room, where there's a photograph of another similar man. In her small, fatherless world, the logic is simple. A man in the house who looks like the man in the photograph equals Dad. Or at least, that's what you might call it when you're really scared and need someone to cling to. Taeyong looks at a photograph of his father. He looks at his own features, which, yes, he inherited from him, especially around the eyes, the shape of the cheekbones. He never thought a child, or anyone for that matter, would see the resemblance so clearly as to draw such a conclusion. The absurdity of the situation crashed down on him with renewed force. No trick, no slyness, no malicious intent, simply childish logic, based on fear and simple visual similarity. The girl sought protection and called him by the name that, in her childish logic, fit the man who resembled Daddy in the photograph. He rises slowly from his knee. His joints creak slightly. He feels an awkwardness he almost never experiences. The silence in the office is different now. Tension still hangs in the air, but Ayanda's acute panic and Taeyong's shock are slowly dissipating, leaving behind a heavy, awkward feeling of bewilderment. "Stand up," Taeyong says. Ayanda not looking at her. His voice was neutral again, but there was none of the previous harshness. "And stop crying. It's pointless." Ayanda rises unsteadily from her knees, still holding Jimin's hand. She tries to wipe her face, but her hands are shaking. Taeyong looks at the girl, who is now snuggled up to her mother again, but continues to watch him. He looks at the dirty dust marks on her dress and on his carpet. He looks at the stuffed bunny. "We're going to go out of here," he declares. "To the living room." He doesn't ask. He speaks. He turns and leaves the office without checking to see if they're following him. He just knows they will. Ayanda, stunned, grabs the cleaning bag with one hand, her daughter with the other, and follows him. Jimin picks up his bunny as he goes. In the living room, Taeyong turns on the main light. The room is filled with a bright, impersonal light. He goes to the bar and pours himself a glass of water. He doesn't offer them any. "Sit down," he says, pointing to a large sofa. Ayanda sits on the very edge, holding Jimin on her lap. She sits up straight, as if she were taking an exam. Jimin, exhausted from tears and shock, rests her head on her mother's chest and sucks her thumb, something she hasn't done in a long time. Her eyes are half closed, but she looks at Taeyong across the room. Taeyong puts down his glass. He doesn't sit. He stands at the bar, leaning his hands on it, and looks at them, at the mother and daughter, who await his verdict in fear. The atmosphere is heavy, filled with the unspoken. Ayanda expects to be fired, fined, called security, anything, but he simply watches. His face is a mask, but his eyes, those very eyes that Jimin found similar to the man in the photograph, are now analyzing, weighing. He looks at their simple, worn clothes, at the single bag containing all their equipment, at the absolute dependence evident in Ayanda's posture. "Did she have a fever?" he asks suddenly. Ayanda winces. "Yeah, no, not anymore. She slept all day. I thought she was just tired." "Did you give her any medication?" "Just some children's fever syrup, in the morning. Nothing else." He nods as if this is important information. Then his gaze falls on Jimin. "Are you thirsty?" The girl slowly takes her finger out of her mouth and nods. Ayanda wants to object, to say, "No thank you," but she doesn't have time. Taeyong takes a clean glass, pours water from the carafe, and places it on the low table in front of the sofa. Ayanda looks at the glass as if it were a trap, then at her daughter. Jimin looks at the water, then at her mother. Ayanda nods, giving permission. The girl climbs off her lap, takes the glass in both hands, and takes a few cautious sips. Then she puts the glass back and quickly returns to her mother's lap. Taeyong watches this simple action. He sees how her small hands grip the glass, how she drinks, how she seeks refuge with her mother. It's all so ordinary, so far from his world of negotiations, money, power, and quiet, empty luxury. "You'll stay here tonight," he says finally, his voice even. Ayanda's eyes widen. "Pan Taeyong, we can leave. It's late now. The child is tired. You will stay in the guest room on the first floor. We will talk tomorrow morning." He says this not as a proposal, but as an order. But there is no threat in this order. It is simply a statement of fact. Ayanda doesn't understand. She's ready for anything but this, for staying. She doesn't know what to say. She just nods, too confused to argue. "Go ahead. The first door on the right is in the east corridor." "It's all clear," he says, turning away and pouring himself another glass of water, signaling that the conversation is over. Ayanda stands up, still holding Jimin's hand, now half asleep. She grabs her bag and heads toward the designated hallway, glancing over her shoulder at the lone figure at the bar. She doesn't see his face. She sees only the hard line of his shoulders and back, illuminated by the bright light of the living room. And in that back, she reads not anger, but some other, incomprehensible heaviness. They leave. Taeyong remains standing, listening to their quiet footsteps fade down the hallway. He stands alone in the large, brightly lit living room, and for the first time in years, his house doesn't just feel empty, it feels different. And he himself, standing here, feels different than he did an hour ago. The word "daddy" still hangs in the quiet air of the room, and he doesn't know how to get rid of it. And strangest of all, he's not sure he wants to. Morning. Early sunlight filters through the tall windows of the dining room. Taeyong is already seated at the table. A cup of black coffee lies before him, his plate untouched. He reads the morning reports on his tablet, but his gaze occasionally wanders to the door. He spent the night without sleep, some time in his office, sorting through papers, some simply sitting in the darkness of the living room. His thoughts swirled around the same thing: the child. The word daddy. The emptiness of his home. Ayanda's efficiency as a cleaner. Her fear. Vulnerability. Practicality warred with something completely irrational. By morning, practicality won, but with an unexpected solution. He hears quiet footsteps. Ayanda enters the dining room. She's wearing the same clothes as yesterday, a little rumpled. She looks exhausted but collected. Behind her, hiding behind her leg, is Jimin. The girl is dressed in a clean but simple dress, her hair carefully combed. She's holding the same bunny. Ayanda stops at the table, holding her daughter by the shoulder. She avoids his eyes. "Good morning, Mr. Taeyong. My apologies again for yesterday. We're ready to leave as soon as you give us permission." Taeyong puts down his tablet. He slowly takes a sip of coffee and sets the cup down on the saucer. The sound seems very loud. "Sit," he says. Not an offer, but a statement. Ayanda hesitates, but then carefully sits down on the chair opposite, placing Jimin next to her. The girl sits on the very edge, trying not to make any noise. Taeyong looks at them for a few seconds, assessing them. "You're good at your job," he begins unexpectedly. "The house is always immaculate." Ayanda blinks, unsure why. "But yesterday's situation exposed a weakness. Your personal life is interfering with your work." Ayanda lowers her head. "I know. It won't happen again. I'll find a permanent nanny. No," he interrupts. "I'm proposing another solution." He pauses, letting his words carry weight. "You and the girl will stay here, in this house. You won't just be a cleaner. You'll be a caretaker. You'll be responsible for the entire house, for cleaning, for minor repairs, for ensuring there are necessary supplies. Your daughter will live with you." Ayanda freezes. Her eyes widen. She looks at him, searching for a hint of mockery, a catch, but sees only the familiar impenetrability. "Live here?" she repeats, meaninglessly. "Yes. You'll have separate rooms. That will solve the problem of nannies and late arrivals. You'll be available whenever needed." Ayanda is silent, her mind racing. This is unexpected, strange. But there's a harsh logic to it that she understands. He's eliminating the problem by making it part of the house. She glances at Jimin, who's quietly playing with her rabbit ear, not understanding the gist of the conversation. "What are the terms?" Ayanda asks cautiously. She knows there's a price to pay for everything. Taeyong lists them clearly, point by point, as if reading out a contract. "First, you will live in rooms on the first floor in the East Wing. Second, your salary will be increased by 40%, taking into account the expanded responsibilities and 24/7 availability. Third, your primary cleaning duties will remain. Additionally, inventory control, coordination with delivery services, and hiring of contractors as needed. Fourth, your daughter is not to be a disturbance. She is not to be in my office, nor in my private quarters on the second floor, without my permission. She is not to make noise at inappropriate times. Fifth, you are not to discuss what you see or hear in this house with anyone, ever. That is the cardinal rule." He pauses to make sure she understands. "In return, you get safe housing for yourself and the child. Stability. I will provide everything the girl needs. Food, shelter, safety. That's part of the deal." Ayanda listens, her initial shock giving way to a slow realization. This isn't mercy. It's a cold, calculated exchange. Her freedom, her privacy, her time, in exchange for full-time employment and absolute loyalty. But for her, a single mother with a child, this offer is unbelievable. It's a roof over her head that doesn't leak. It's food in the fridge. It's a safe neighborhood. It's a future for Jimin. "I agree," she says quietly but firmly. "I agree on your terms, Mr. Taeyong. Thank you for this opportunity." She's not thanking you for your kindness. She's thanking you for the opportunity. He appreciates it. "Okay," he nods. "You'll go get your things today. The driver will help. I'll give you the grocery list and cleaning schedule this evening." After breakfast, which Ayanda and Jimin ate in silence, and with great care, the girl was allowed to take yogurt and a piece of bread. Taeyong briefly shows them their new apartment. It's not just a room. It's a small but separate apartment in the east wing of the house. There's a small living room with a sofa and TV, a bedroom with 2 single beds, a private bathroom, and even a tiny kitchenette with a mini fridge and stove. To Ayanda, it feels like luxury. Clean, bright linoleum on the floor, fresh paint on the walls, new curtains. Everything smells clean and new. To Jimin, it's just a very large, new space. She cautiously steps inside, holding the bunny, and looks around. "Is this our room, Mom?" she whispers. "Yes, baby. Our new room," Ayanda says, her voice trembling with a mixture of emotions, relief, fear of the future, and disbelief at such good fortune. Taeyong stands in the doorway, watching. There are closets in the bedroom. The bathroom has everything you need. If anything is missing, make a list. Don't touch things in other rooms, except those designated for cleaning. You can cook lunch and dinner here, or get them from the communal kitchen. After 7 o'clock in the evening, my wing of the house, he gestures toward the main staircase, is off limits unless summoned. He says this without a threat, simply stating the facts. "I'll be in my office. A driver will be arriving this afternoon to take you to get your things." He turns and leaves, leaving them alone in their strange new home. The door closes. Ayanda sinks onto the couch. She feels its firmness, looks at the clean walls. Jimin comes over to her and climbs onto his lap. "Are we going to live here? With a serious man?" she asks. "Yes," Ayanda says, hugging her. "We're going to live here. You have to be a really, really good girl, understand? Quiet and obedient." "Is he scary?" Jimin whispers. Ayanda considers. "No, he's strict. He has his own rules, and we have to follow them." They sit like that for a few minutes, getting used to the silence of the new room. Then Jimin climbs down and begins to cautiously explore the space. She opens the closet door, looking at the empty shelves. She peers into the sparkling clean bathtub. She goes to the window and looks out onto a different part of the garden, not the one visible from the study. Ayanda stands up and begins to examine the kitchen alcove. Everything is new. Everything works. She has her own stove, her own refrigerator. It's more than she's ever had. She feels out of place, as if she's entered someone else's life by mistake. But she also feels a heavy responsibility and determination. She will do anything to stay here, to keep this room, this chance, from vanishing like a dream. She looks at Jimin, who is now quietly humming to herself, arranging a few small stones she brought with her on the windowsill. And in that moment, fear recedes, giving way to a fragile but real hope. A week has passed. The new rhythm of life is slowly settling into the routine of the large house. Ayanda works with renewed zeal, trying to justify the trust placed in her and the new conditions. Jimin is learning to live by new rules, walking quietly, not running down long hallways, not touching anything without permission. One of the new unspoken rules is breakfast. Ayanda sets the table in the dining room for Taeyong at 7 in the morning. Sometimes he comes earlier, sometimes later. Ayanda and Jimin usually have breakfast in their small kitchen, but this morning, Jimin woke up early and really wanted to see the big table in the dining room. Ayanda, who was cleaning there, let her sit at it while she finished in the kitchen. The girl sits on a high chair, her feet not quite reaching the floor. In front of her is a plate with a sliced apple and a sandwich, but she's not eating. She's engrossed in drawing. She's brought with her a small notebook and a box of colored pencils, a gift from her mother for good behavior. Taeyong enters the dining room at precisely 7:10. He's already dressed for the day. He sees the girl at the table and pauses for a second. He gives her a short nod, their new form of greeting. Jimin looks up at him, quickly removes her feet from the chair she'd climbed onto, and nods too, trying to look serious. Then he lowers his head back to the drawing. Taeyong takes his usual place at the head of the table. Ayanda immediately places coffee, toast, and an omelet in front of him. He begins eating silently, scrolling through the news on his tablet. His gaze periodically flickers to the girl. She's completely absorbed in the process. Her tongue sticks out slightly from the effort. She carefully colors something with a bright green pencil. Then she picks up a brown one. Her movements are confident, focused. She doesn't make any noise. She simply draws, occasionally taking a bite of her apple. Taeyong watches. In his world, few things are done without purpose. But here, a child creates something because she wants to. It seems strange and a little mysterious to him. He doesn't ask what she's drawing. He simply sips his coffee and watches the little fingers working on the pencil. Later that morning, Taeyong stands in his office by the window. He's having a brief but tense phone conversation. His voice is low and even, but his tone is thick with dissatisfaction. "It's been decided. I'm not accepting excuses. Fix this by the end of the day," he says, and hangs up. He stands with his back to the door, looking into the garden but not seeing it. His shoulders are tense. The problem is small but annoying, a sign of someone's negligence. He hates negligence. The door to the office was slightly open for ventilation. Ayanda was mopping the hallway floor, and Jimin was sitting nearby, playing with her bunny. The girl heard the tone of his voice. She looked up and saw his figure in the doorway. He stood very straight and still, but in that stillness there was a sense of a storm. Jimin fell silent. She could see her mother's anger, tired with irritation in her voice. But her uncle's quiet, cold, menacing voice was different. It was frightening in its restraint. She instinctively understood that something was wrong with him. Something hurt, even if he wasn't crying or screaming. Taeyong hears a slight rustling at the door. He turns around, expecting to see Ayanda. But Jimin is standing in the doorway. She's holding her sketchbook. Her expression is serious and a little frightened, but she doesn't run away. She crosses the threshold of the office. For the first time since that day, she takes a few hesitant steps across the carpet toward him. Taeyong looks at her without saying a word. He doesn't pull her away, doesn't ask what she's doing here. He just waits. Jimin stops 2 steps away from him. She silently opens the notebook, tears out a sheet of paper, and hands it to him. Taeyong slowly picks up the piece of paper. He looks at the drawing. It depicts, in bright, slightly rough lines, a large, smiling yellow sun, a green hill, a blue stream. And on the hill are 2 figures. One is large, dressed in black. The pencil was almost worn out trying to achieve a dark color. The other is small, wearing a blue dress. They are holding hands. In the corner, in crooked letters, is written, Jimin. It's to make it easier, the girl says quietly, looking at his chest, not daring to look higher. Mom says when you're feeling bad, you should look at something good. Here. And she points her finger at the smiling sun in her drawing. Taeyong looks at the piece of paper in his hand. He looks at the crooked lines, the naive colors, the 2 figures, the big one and the small one, holding hands. Something shifts in his chest, something icy and hard, something that's been there for years like stone, cracks open. It's not warmth that breaks through, not yet, but something like silence. Not the heavy silence of an empty house, but a different kind. Simple, like the silence after the anger has stopped pounding in your temples. No one gave him drawings. No one tried to make things easier for him. His world was built on problem-solving, on pressure, on control, on force, not on smiling suns on paper. He looks up at the girl. She stands, waiting, unsure how he will react. Her eyes are filled with hope and fear of rejection. Thank you, he says finally. His voice sounds a little unusual. Not harsh, but not soft either. Just neutral. He carefully places the drawing on the edge of his desk, next to the keyboard, so as not to wrinkle it. He doesn't put it away in a drawer. He places it in plain sight. Jimin notices this. A small smile touches the corners of her lips. She understands that the gift has been accepted. She nods, turns, and quickly, almost running, slips out of the office back to her mother. Taeyong looks at the drawing again, then at the problem on his phone that needed fixing. The anger doesn't seem so acute anymore. It's still there, but it's pushed back somewhere, obscured by that stupid yellow sun. The day goes on as usual. The problem is resolved by evening. Taeyong finishes work earlier than usual. He leaves the office and heads to the kitchen to pour himself some water. Walking down the hall, he sees Jimin. She's sitting on the floor by the large window overlooking the garden, watching the sunset. The sun paints the trees in golden and pink hues. Her posture betrays a quiet melancholy. She looks small and a little lonely. She notices him and stands up, adopting her obedient pose, hands at her sides, looking at the floor. Taeyong stops. He looks at her, then out into the garden, and then back at her. Do you want to go out? He asks suddenly. Jimin's eyes widen, and she stares at him, disbelieving. Outside? She asks. Into the garden, for 5 minutes. She nods quickly, her face lighting up with suppressed delight. She glances toward her room, where her mother is, but doesn't run for permission. He's the boss. His word is law. He opens the heavy glass door leading to the terrace. The cool evening air rushes in. Jimin carefully follows him out. They stand on the terrace. Then Taeyong descends the steps onto the gravel path. Jimin follows him, trying to follow exactly in his footsteps. They walk in silence. He walks slowly, taking small steps. She stands next to him, looking around. She points to a white butterfly that has landed on a bush. He nods. She bends down to look at a large beetle on a rock. He stops and waits. They reach an old stone bench at the end of the main alley. He sits down. He doesn't invite her to sit, but he doesn't forbid her either. She sits at the other end of the bench, leaving plenty of space between them. She swings her legs, which don't quite reach the ground. They sit like that for several minutes, looking out at the darkening garden. No one says a word, but it's not an awkward silence. It's just silence. General, calm. It's time to go, he says finally, standing up. She jumps off the bench. They walk back the same way. At the door, he lets her go in first. She steps inside and stops, turning to face him. Thank you for the walk, Mr. Taeyong, she says very formally, just as her mother taught her. He looks at her serious face, illuminated by the light from the hall, and simply nods. Go to your mother. She leaves. He closes the door and turns the key. He stands in the hallway, listening to her quick, light steps fade into the corridor. He smells the evening air he brought with him from his walk, and for the first time in years, returning home doesn't feel like entering an empty, silent fortress. It feels simply like coming home. Almost a month has passed. Jimin already knows which floorboards in the hallway creak and avoids them. She's learned to distinguish between Taeyong's footsteps and her mother's. Her drawings, always with a smiling sun, now sometimes appear on the refrigerator in the shared kitchen, attached with a magnet. No one ever takes them away. It's late evening. Ayanda has finished her chores. She checks the windows on the first floor are closed and pops into the office to pick up an empty coffee cup. Taeyong hasn't left yet. He's sitting at his desk, but he's not working. He's simply looking out the window at the dark garden. On the edge of the desk lies that very first drawing. Ayanda takes the cup carefully. Sorry to disturb you, she says quietly. Taeyong turns around. He looks less focused than usual. Tired. Is she sleeping? He asks suddenly. Ayanda nods. Yes, right after I read to her. He is silent. Then he points to the chair opposite. Sit down! Ayanda sits on the edge, holding a saucer and cup in her lap. She doesn't know what this mood is. Taeyong asks. His voice lacks its usual businesslike tone. It's just a question. 4 years. Jimin was born here. The girl's father? Ayanda looks at her hands. She hadn't expected such a question, but there was no curiosity in his tone, only a statement. He left. Before she was born. He had another family in another country. We don't talk. Taeyong nods, as if this is a logical, predictable development. And your family? In Zambia. My parents, my brothers. We talk on video sometimes. They know I have a good job here. She says the last sentence with a slight emphasis, as if defending her choice. Why did you leave? Ayanda considers. She's never talked about this here. I wanted something different. More opportunities. I took courses, worked at a hotel. Then I met him. Then Jimin was born. Then I had to survive. She shrugs. Her story sounds spare and ordinary, devoid of pathos. This job, your home, this is the most stable period in all this time. Taeyong looks at her. He sees not a cleaning lady, but a person. A person who has gone through a series of decisions that led her and her child to end up under his desk in his office. His own life, with its rules, hierarchy, and control, now seems strangely removed from this simple, difficult reality. You're a good mother, he says suddenly. It's not a compliment. It's a conclusion. Ayanda looks at him, her eyes filling with water for a moment. She blinks rapidly. I'm trying, she says hoarsely. Then she stands. Is there anything else you need? No, good night. Good night, Mr. Taeyong. She leaves, taking the cup. He looks out the window again, but now he sees not just darkness, but someone's specific story, a story that is now connected to his home. A few days later, Taeyong summons his assistant, Min-seok, to his office. Min-seok is a man in his mid-30s, efficient and discreet. I need to check something, Taeyong says, not looking at him. The cleaning lady, Ayanda, she has a daughter. We need to make sure all her paperwork is in order. Visa, registration, health insurance for the child. Everything required by law. If there are any problems, resolve them, quietly. Don't attract attention. Min-seok doesn't show the slightest surprise. He simply nods. It will be done. Should I discuss the details with her? No. Just make sure everything is legal and secure. Open a separate bank account for her if she doesn't have one. Transfer part of her salary into it. She shouldn't know about this account until the time is right. Just keep it ready. Understood. And find out about kindergartens or development groups nearby. A quiet, nice place. Gather information. Min-seok throws again. Is there anything else? No, you can go. The assistant leaves. Taeyong returns to his paperwork. He's not doing this out of kindness. He's doing it out of pragmatism. A stable, secure employee who has no external problems works better. A child who goes to a good preschool develops and is less of a nuisance. It's an investment in order in his home. Inefficiency, at least, that's how he explains it to himself, and the fact that the drawing of the yellow sun is still lying on his desk has nothing to do with it. It's Friday evening. Ayanda is cooking dinner in the communal kitchen. Something simple, chicken with vegetables and rice. Jimin is sitting on a high stool by the island, helping by sorting through green beans. Taeyong leaves the office earlier than usual. He goes into the kitchen to pour himself some water and pauses at the threshold. The smell of cooking, the warm light, the quiet voice of a little girl telling her mother something about her toy, all this creates a scene that has never been present in this house. Ayanda notices him and freezes. "I'm almost done, Mr. Taeyeon. I'll just clean everything up," she says quickly. He looks at the table, set for two, then at the pots on the stove. "Is this enough for 3? He asks. Ayanda blinks. Yeah, of course, but we'll eat in our room, like always." "There's room here," he says simply. He approaches the table and pulls out one of the chairs. It's not an invitation, it's a fact. Jimin looks at his mother, wide-eyed, then at Taeyong. Ayanda freezes for a second. Then her professional instincts take over. She nods. "Okay, it'll be ready in a minute." She quickly sets a third plate and cutlery on the table, pours water into another glass. She arranges the food on the plates, starting, of course, with Taeyong's. All her movements are precise, but inside, she's in a turmoil. They sit down. Taeyong is at the head of the table. Ayanda and Jimin are across from each other. An awkward silence hangs over the table. The only sound is the quiet clink of cutlery. Jimin looks at his plate, then at Taeyong. She very carefully, under the table, touches her mother's leg, as if asking what's going on. Ayanda tries to smile at her. "Eat, baby." Taeyong begins to eat. He eats slowly, with his usual restraint. Then, looking at his plate, he says, "The food is good." It's just a statement. But for Ayanda, it's like a reward. "Thank you," she breathes out. Jimin, encouraged, plucks up her courage. "Mom learned a new way to make kimchi," she tells Taeyong in her clear voice. He looks up at her. "Yeah? Which one's better?" She frowns seriously. "What Mom does now is less prickly. For me." Of Taeyong's mouth twitches slightly. It's not a smile, but it's something close. "I see," he says. The awkwardness gradually fades. They eat without speaking, but the silence is no longer so heavy. It's the silence of people simply sharing a meal. Ayanda occasionally glances at Taeyong, trying to gauge his mood. He seems simply calm. When Jimin finishes, she carefully places her spoon on the plate and says, "Thank you for dinner." She says this looking at her mother, but the wording clearly includes him as well. Taeyeon nods. "You can go play," Ayanda says quietly. The girl climbs down from her chair and with one last glance at the adults, runs off to her room. Ayanda starts collecting the plates. "Leave them," says Taeyeon. "You can do it later." He stands up. He stands next to the table for a second, looking at the empty chair where Jimin had been sitting. "The driver will take you shopping tomorrow. You need things for winter. For her, too. Make a list." He doesn't wait for an answer. He turns and goes into his office. Ayanda stands among the dirty dishes, under the warm light of the kitchen chandelier. She looks at the 2 empty places and the one at the head of the table. The smell of their shared dinner still lingers in the air, and she realizes that something has changed. Not in the rules, not in the conditions, but in something else, in the very air of this house. It is no longer just cold and empty. It now smells of life, their life. A week after that family dinner, Min Seok comes into Taeyong's office. His assistant has his usual stony face, but Taeyong detects a slight tension in his posture. "There's a problem," Min Seok says without preamble. "Park Jung-hwan." Taeyong slowly puts down his pen. Park Jung-hwan is an old rival. Their rivalry has been going on for years, cold and polite on the surface, full of undercurrents beneath. What did he do? He found a weak spot. Min Seok places the folder on the table. Ayanda, her daughter. His people checked their documents, found discrepancies, an old expired certificate. He plans to exploit it. Taeyong opens the folder. There are printouts, photos of Ayanda walking hand in hand with Jimin in the park, copies of her old papers with red marks. The threat isn't the documents themselves. His people have already corrected everything. The threat is publicity. The attention of immigration officials. Deportation. Park knows Taeyong is now interested in them, and he's found a way to strike. Taeyong's voice was even. "Tomorrow, at the old club on the waterfront. He wants to discuss mutual concessions. Clearly, he'll demand the port supply contract be ceded to him. Taeyong closes the folder. The contract is important, but he's not thinking about the money. He's thinking about the photo in the folder. Ayanda and Jamin walking through the park. The girl is looking at a balloon. They're defenseless. They've become a target because of him. Prepare all the new documents on them. Everything is clear. And find out who leaked the information to Park within our organization, Taeyong says. His eyes are cold. The next day, Taeyong arrives at the waterfront club. It's neutral territory, an expensive, dimly lit place. Park Jung-hwan is already seated at a table in the corner. He's older than Taeyong, with graying temples and a familiar smile that never reaches his eyes. Taeyong-si, how nice to see you, he says, gesturing for them to sit down. Taeyong sits down. They exchange formalities for a minute. Then Park pours him a whiskey. Unfortunately, this meeting isn't entirely for pleasant reasons, Park sighs. I've learned of some awkward circumstances in your home. Your new caretaker, a lovely woman, and her child. It's a shame, but their legal status, as I understand it, is somewhat precarious. Taeyong takes the glass, but doesn't drink. He looks at Park. What do you want? I want to help avoid a scandal. Park's face turns serious. You don't want to get into trouble with the authorities over some servants, do you? I can sort it all out, quietly, in exchange for a small favor. A portfolio of supplies in the port area. You don't really need it, but I really do. Taeyong places his glass on the table. He doesn't blink. You're mistaken, Parksy. Wrong? Park's eyebrows rise. First of all, their paperwork is in perfect order. Everything's been verified. Everything is legal. I took care of it myself. Park's expression loses a little confidence. He hadn't expected this. Second, Taeyong continues in the same even tone, Ayanda and her daughter are not servants. They are under my protection, complete and absolute. He pauses, letting the words sink in. And third, the port contract will remain mine, because you will withdraw your application. Today, Park freezes. His smile disappears. On what basis? Are you threatening me? No. Taeyong leans forward slightly. I'm informing you. You spent resources trying to find a weakness, but there is no weakness. There is only the fact. By touching them, you touch me personally. Not my interests, not my organization. Me. Are you ready for such a war, Parksy? Not a business competition. A war without rules? A flicker of calculation flashes in Park's eyes, followed by a cold understanding. He's studied Taeyong for years. He's always been calculating, cold, and driven by self-interest. But now he sees a different man. He speaks quietly, but behind his words lies not business logic, but something deeper, something personal. And Park understands, this isn't a bluff. This man, known for his ruthless rationality, is now driven by something irrational. And an irrational opponent is the most dangerous. You can't reason with him. You can't predict him. Park leans back in his chair. He's lost before he's even started. His trump card has proven a phony, and the stakes have suddenly risen to an unacceptable level. I think I underestimated the situation, he says finally, his voice losing its former confidence. Yes, Taeyong agrees. You underestimated. Will the contract be revoked by this evening? Park nods, pursing his lips. It will be revoked. Taeyong stands up. He doesn't shake Park's hand. He simply looks down at him. Never come near my house again, or anyone who lives in it. He turns and leaves. His footsteps echo loudly in the nearly empty hall. Park remains seated, his face darkening. He's just encountered something new, a shield he didn't expect. Not made of steel or money, but something stronger. Taeyong returns home. It's evening. The light is on in the hallway. Quiet voices and the smell of fried pancakes drift from the kitchen. Ayanda is spoiling Jimin. He walks into the office, but doesn't turn on the light. He sits down in the chair in the dark. He's just changed the rules of the game. He's put his reputation as a cool negotiator, his safety on the line for the sake of two people who've accidentally entered his life. Before, his strength lay in the fact that there was nothing to cling to. He had no weaknesses. There was nothing more valuable than calculation. Now there is. He thinks of the fear in Ayanda's eyes that first evening, of Jamin's trusting touch on his leg, of the drawing of the sun on the table, of the quiet walk in the garden, of the dinner they shared. He gets up and goes to the window. A warm yellow light shines through the kitchen window. He sees Ayanda's silhouette washing dishes. He sees Jimin run up to her and wave a piece of paper at her, probably another drawing. Before, this light, these sounds would have been an intrusion. Now they are part of the background. part of what the word home means. He hadn't become softer. He hadn't become weaker. He had simply acquired a new context, a new point of reference. His world was no longer limited to his office, his deals, and the quiet, eerie emptiness of the mansion. It had expanded. It had embraced the children's laughter through the wall, the smell of home-cooked meals, the responsibility not only for the business, but also for the fragile lives that now depended on his decisions. It's uncomfortable. It makes him vulnerable. It goes against every rule he's lived by. But when he looks at that warm kitchen light, at those two silhouettes, he feels no desire to return to the old, cold emptiness. He feels something else, a feeling that doesn't yet have a name, something heavy but solid, like an anchor. He returns to the desk and turns on the table lamp. A beam of light falls on the drawing of a yellow sun. He sits down and takes up the papers again. Work does not wait. But now, as he makes calculations, he knows he is protecting more than just an empire. He is protecting a home, his home, and this knowledge changes everything. It doesn't make him any easier. It makes him different. For the first time in many years, the future seems to him not just a series of predictable steps, but something alive. And this doesn't frighten him. It gives him a new, different strength. Taeyeon doesn't tell Ayanda about the meeting with Park. There's no reason to scare her. Min Seok reports in the morning that the contract has been revoked and the source of the leak has been found and neutralized. Life goes on, but the changes in the house are becoming more and more noticeable. A bright blue children's mug with a lid now always stands in the kitchen. It sits on the bottom shelf of the cabinet, next to his austere porcelain cups. Once a week, a driver takes Ayanda and Jimin shopping, and sometimes to the children's park. Jimin has started visiting a small art studio twice a week. Her drawings are growing. One morning, Taeyeon leaves her office and sees Jimin in the hallway. She's standing on an ottoman, carefully hanging something on the wall. She's pinning a new drawing to a small corkboard that wasn't there before. It depicts a large house. Smoke billows from the chimney. A bird sits on the roof. 3 figurines stand by the door. A large one, a medium one, and a small one. She spots him and freezes, pin in hand. "Can I?" she asks, pointing to the board. "Mom said we can. This is our gallery." Taeyong looks at the drawing, at the 3 figures by the door. He nods once, briefly. "Okay." He goes into the kitchen. Then, returning with coffee, he stops in front of the board again. The figures are drawn holding hands. The medium figure is wearing a dress. The small one is also wearing a dress. The large one is wearing black. He looks at it for a few seconds, then goes into the office. In the evening, Ayanda comes into the office with documents to sign. Utility bills, gardener's bills. Min Seok used to handle these things. Now Taeyeon delegates them to her. He signs the papers, and she stands and waits. "The studio. Does she like it?" he asks, not looking at her. "Very much. She brought a clay cup today. She says she made it for the house." Ayanda hesitates a little. He signs the last sheet and hands it over. "Tomorrow the driver will take you to pick up new winter clothes. For her, and for you too. Need a warm jacket and boots." Ayanda wants to protest that she has a jacket, but she meets his gaze. He doesn't argue. He informs. She simply nods. "Okay, thank you. And buy something for this board, to make it easier to hang the pictures." Ayanda smiles, unable to contain herself. "Okay, Mr. Taeyong." When she leaves, he looks at the drawing of the yellow sun again. Then he takes a thin magnet from the top drawer of his desk. He attaches the drawing to the metal side of the bookcase. Now it's visible from his place at the desk. A few more days pass. It's late evening, and Taeyong is late on the phone. He goes out into the hall and hears quiet voices coming from the living room. Ayanda is reading Jimin a story. He stops by the door, remaining in the shadows of the hallway. He hears Ayanda's slow, calm voice. He hears Jimin ask why the prince didn't immediately recognize the princess. He hears his mother's soft laughter in response. He stands and listens. This sound is not silence. It is different. It is alive. Jimin says something, her voice growing sleepy. Then Ayanda begins to quietly hum a song, in a language Taeyeon doesn't understand. The melody is simple, a lullaby. Taeyong moves away from the door and goes up to his bedroom on the 2nd floor. But even there, in the silence of his rooms, he seems to hear echoes of that melody. They don't bother him. They're simply there. Jimin looks sleepy at breakfast this morning. "Did you sleep badly?" Ayanda asks, smoothing her hair. Jimin shakes his head. "No, I had a good dream." "What kind of dream?" "That we all ate a huge cake together. And then we looked at the stars. Ayanda glances quickly at Taeyong, who is drinking coffee. He hears, but doesn't react. After breakfast, as Ayanda leads Jimin off to get ready for the studio, Taeyong stops her with a glance. "Tonight, after dinner," he says, "if she doesn't have classes, we can light the fireplace in the living room." Ayanda blinks. The fireplace is rarely used. "Okay," she says. "I'll get everything ready." That evening, when Jimin is already in his pajamas, the fireplace crackles, casting warm light on the walls. Ayanda is knitting something on the sofa. Jimin is sitting on the rug in front of the fire, putting together a puzzle. Taeyong comes down from the study. He goes into the living room, takes a book from the shelf, and sits down in his chair by the fireplace, slightly to the side. He opens the book but doesn't read. He looks at the fire, at the girl, intently searching for the right part, at the woman, whose hands move calmly and confidently. Jimin finds the piece and squeals with joy. Then he looks at Taeyong. "Look, it was a piece of sky. I found it." Taeyong looks at the puzzle piece in her hands, blue with a white cloud. "Yes," he says, "that's the sky." He looks at the fire again. And at that moment, in the warmth of the fireplace, amid the quiet crackling of the logs and the rustle of pages, he doesn't even turn. He feels it with complete clarity. This isn't a deal, not a contract, not a strategy. This is life. Simple, ordinary, alien, but it became part of his own. It came unbidden, filled a void he hadn't even realized, and changed everything. It made him vulnerable. And in this vulnerability, he found a new foothold, more solid than all his previous calculations. He looks at Jimin, who is once again immersed in the puzzle, and at Ayanda, who is smiling at her daughter, and he understands that this is his new beginning. Not loud, not bright, quiet, like this evening by the fireplace, but real, the only thing that matters. The sun is shining in the park. Ayanda is sitting on a bench and watching Jimin dig in the sandbox. The girl is building a sandcastle and laughing. Ayanda is smiling. Her life is good now, peaceful. A shadow falls on her. A man in a dark jacket stands nearby. He looks ordinary, nothing remarkable. "May I?" he asks, pointing to the bench. Ayanda nods. She shifts slightly. The man sits up. He doesn't look at her. He looks ahead, at the trees. "Naomi," he says quietly. The word cuts into Ayanda like a knife. She freezes. The air stops flowing into her lungs. It's a name, her real name. She hasn't heard it in 4 years. "You're wrong," she breathes, her voice shaking. "No," he says just as quietly. He bends down, as if adjusting a shoelace. "Naomi Kamba, from Lusaka. You ran away, changed your name, hid with the child." Ayanda can't move. She feels her fingertips growing cold. "What do you want?" she whispers. "Money, $20,000. You have a week." "I don't have that kind of money," she says, her heart pounding in her throat. "Borrow? Steal? I don't care." His voice grows harsher. "If there's no money, I'll talk to your boss. I'll tell him who you are. And I'll tell the police about your fake documents." He slowly turns his head and looks at Jimin. "Or I'll talk to her. Maybe I'll just take her for a walk." A cold chill washes over Ayanda. She grabs the edge of the bench. "Don't touch her." Her voice sounds muffled. 1 week. "Await instructions." He stands up and walks away slowly. A minute later, he disappears behind the trees. Ayanda sits motionless. Then she suddenly stands up and walks towards Jimin. "Let's go home. Now." She grips her daughter's hand too tightly. She walks quickly, almost running. She glances over her shoulder. The park seems full of hidden eyes. Ayanda is in quiet horror all evening. 20,000. Where to get it? Steal it from Taeyong? No, she can't. But if he doesn't bring the money, she looks at the sleeping Jimin. Fear chokes her. In the morning, Jimin takes a notebook and pencils. "I'll draw that guy from the park," she says. "Don't," Ayanda says sharply. Jimin flinches. "But I remembered his face." "Draw the sun instead, please." Jimin nods, but doesn't listen. She secretly draws a man on a blank sheet of paper. The portrait is childish, yet recognizable. A round face, cold eyes. She hides the sheet under her pillow. Ayanda has been nervous all day. She goes to the windows and listens. Taeyeon asks if everything is okay. She lies that she's just tired. At night, Ayanda sleeps lightly. It seems as if someone is moving outside the window. She gets up and checks the door. It's locked. In the morning, Jimin is looking for his notebook. "Mom, he's gone! He was under the pillow." Ayanda helps search. They turn the room upside down. The notebook is gone. Only it's gone. Nothing else has been touched. There was a drawing of that uncle, Jimin cries. Ayanda stands in the middle of the room, frozen. Someone was here, at night, in their room. They took only the drawing, this message, clear and terrible. I see everything. I was there for your child. A day later, Ayanda finds a white envelope under her door. It takes her breath away. Inside is a photograph, old, tattered. In it, her parents are standing outside their home in Zambia. They are smiling. She left this photograph behind in her old life. She thought it was gone. On the back is a note, the same angular handwriting. Silence is expensive. I'll be in touch soon. Ayanda sinks to the floor. She holds the photograph with trembling hands. This isn't just blackmail. It's connected to her past. Someone from there. Someone who knows her true story. She thinks about her parents. They're old. They don't know where she is. She sent them money through a friend, but didn't give them an address. Now, this man has found their photos. What does this mean? Is he connected to Zambia? Is he threatening her parents? The fear grows, deeper. It's not just money anymore. It's a web that stretches across years and continents. After lunch, Jimin wants to go for a walk in the yard. Ayanda doesn't let her go alone. She goes with her. Jimin runs to her favorite bushes by the fence. She sometimes plays hide-and-seek there. Suddenly, she falls silent. Then a quiet sob is heard. Mother! The voice sounds frightened. Ayanda runs towards her. Jimin stands and looks at the ground. Her stuffed bunny is lying on the ground, but the bunny's head is missing. It's lying nearby. The stuffing is sticking out. A note is pinned to the hare's body. The same handwriting. Just 2 words. Time flies. Jimin starts crying quietly, loudly. This is her best friend, her protector. Ayanda picks up the toy. Her hands are shaking. This isn't just a message anymore. This is cruelty. Intentional cruelty towards a child. To hit her. To show. Nothing is sacred. Nothing is safe. She hugs Jimin, who clings to her all in tears. Jimin whispers, yes, baby. Very bad, Ayanda says quietly. And she knows there's no time to think. He's getting closer. His threats are becoming more real. That evening, as Jimin was falling asleep, Ayanda's phone vibrated in her robe pocket. An unfamiliar number. She goes into the bathroom, closes the door, and answers quietly. Hello, Naomi, says a familiar voice. Cold even. Ayanda is silent. She cannot speak. I've changed my mind about the money, he says. I have a job for you, a simple one. What? She breathes. In your boss's office. In the top drawer of his desk, there's a black flash drive, a small one. You need to copy everything on it to another drive and bring it to me. I can't. I'm not a thief. You can, he interrupts, his voice growing dangerous. Otherwise, I'll come to your house. When he leaves, I'll talk to your daughter. I'll really talk. Maybe I'll even take her with me on a tour for a long time. Tears stream down Ayanda's face. She remains silent. You have 3 days. The day after tomorrow, he's leaving for a whole day of meetings. This is your chance. If you do this, I'll disappear. You'll never hear from me again. Your secret will remain a secret. If not, well, you know. He hangs up. Ayanda stands in the dark bathroom, her forehead pressed against the cold tiles. She has no choice. None at all. Steal from Taeyong. Betray the man who gave them shelter, protection, dignity, or risk Jimin, her safety, her life. This is not a choice. It's a trap. She wipes her face, looks at her reflection in the mirror. She is Naomi again, the one who is caught, the one who has everything taken from her. 3 days. She must decide, become a thief, or lose her daughter. She opens the door and looks toward Jimin's room. The dim light of the nightlight glows from under the door, and Ayanda already knows her answer. She knew it from the second she saw the broken toy in her daughter's hands. She will do it. She will steal, because she has no other choice. For 2 days, Ayanda has been living in a nightmare. She performs her duties like a robot. Cooks, cleans, smiles at Jimin. Inside, everything is compressed into a cold, hard lump. She watches. Every morning, Taeyong leaves the house. He hangs his coat or jacket on a hook in the hallway. Ayanda mops the floor, dusts it. She notices small details. One morning, as Taeyong rushes to a meeting, he takes off his dark blue coat. A ring of keys protrudes slightly from his pocket. Among them is a small silver key. Not a car key, not a gate key. It's thin, like a drawer key. Taeyong doesn't notice. He straightens his tie and leaves. Ayanda stands with a rag in her hands. She looks at the key. It sticks out of her pocket, like an invitation, like a trap. The coat hangs here until evening. Sometimes Taeyong leaves it there for the whole day, so she'll have time. He's leaving for the whole day, the day after tomorrow. The key will most likely be in his pocket. A plan forms itself in her head. A terrible, simple plan. Take the key, enter the office, open the drawer, find the flash drive, quickly copy it, put everything back where it belongs. It will take 10 minutes, maybe 15. Jimin runs down the hallway toward her. Mom, look! I drew a new bunny! She holds up a piece of paper. On it is a crooked but happy bunny with a big heart on its chest. Ayanda looks at the drawing. Then she looks at the key in her coat pocket. Her heart is breaking. She has to do it. For this smile, for this new rabbit. Day tense. Taeyong leaves early in the morning. He says he won't be back until dinner. He hangs up his coat. Today it's a light gray jacket, and leaves. Ayanda watches him go. Then she leads Jimin into their room. Today's a special day, baby. We're going to have a picnic in the room. She turns on cartoons, spreads a blanket on the floor, and lays out fruit and cookies. The goal is to keep Jimin busy for a long time. Where will you be? Jimin asks. I'll quickly clean up the office, then I'll join you. I promise. She closes the room door. She stands in the hallway and listens to her heartbeat. It beats somewhere in her temples. She goes to the coat rack. The jacket hangs heavily. She slowly, very slowly, puts her hand into the right pocket. The keys are not there, in the left. Her fingers hit cold metal. She pulls out the keyring. Among the keys is the same one, the silver one. She holds it in her palm. It seems red hot. Then she goes to the office. The door is unlocked. She goes inside and closes the door behind her. The room is quiet. It smells of wood and coffee. Taeyong's desk is huge and austere. She approaches it. There's a keyhole in the top drawer on the right. Her hands are shaking so badly that it takes her 3 tries to get the key into the lock. She turns it. The click sounds like a gunshot. The drawer opens. Inside, everything is tidy. Folders, pens, a small tablet, and in the corner, separately, lies a small black flash drive, exactly like the one the blackmailer described. Ayanda takes it. It's cold and light. She takes hers out of her pocket, bought yesterday at the nearest store. She connects both to Taeyong's laptop. He asks for the password. Her heart stops. But no, the blackmailer said the password is not needed. It's a simple flash drive for transfer. He was right. The folder opens. She's copying files. The progress bar is crawling slowly. Seconds feel like hours. She looks at the door. It seems like it's about to open. That Taeyong is back. That Jimin is calling her. Finally, the copying is complete. She unplugs the flash drives. She puts the black one back in the drawer. She puts hers in her pocket. She closes the drawer and turns the key. The clicking sound is even louder now. She returns to the hallway. She puts the keys back in her jacket pocket. Her hands are wet with sweat. She betrayed him, the man who gave them everything. She's a thief. That's a fact now. The blackmailer arranged a meeting 4 stops from home, a small park near the bus station, a deserted place in the evening. Ayanda tells Jimin she's going to the pharmacy. He leaves her with a promise to return in 20 minutes. The girl watches cartoons and nods. Ayanda is walking. She has a flash drive in her pocket. Her legs are weak. Every passerby seems suspicious. She comes to the park. There's almost no one there. The benches are empty. A few lanterns are on. She sits down on the indicated bench. She waits. 5 minutes later, a gray car pulls up to the sidewalk. Not old, not new, just an ordinary one. It stops 10 meters away. The passenger window rolls down. It's dark inside. Only a silhouette of a person is visible. Ayanda stands up and approaches slowly. She can't see the face, only the outline. Do you have it? The same voice asks. She nods silently, takes the flash drive out of her pocket and holds it out the window. The silhouette extends its hand. He takes it. Good girl, the voice says. Then it tosses a small brown paper bag onto the sidewalk. This is for you, for your effort. I didn't ask for money, Ayanda says, but the window is already rolling up. The car starts moving and quickly disappears around the corner. Ayanda stands on the sidewalk. Then she picks up the bag. It's heavy. She looks inside. Stacks of money. Not 20,000, but a lot. A lot. She feels sick. He paid her. Now she's not just a thief. She's a mercenary. She sold information. She throws the bag hard into the nearest trash can. But then she stops. She might need the money, in case everything gets discovered, and they have to flee. She goes back and picks up the bag. She tucks it deep into her bag. She feels dirty. So dirty. She walks home, and every step is difficult. Jimin meets her at the door. Mom, you took too long. I've been waiting for you. Sorry, baby, I got stuck in line. She hugs her daughter, and this hug seems fake to her. She is different now, the one who deceives, the one who takes money for betrayals. The next morning, Taeyong is acting as usual. He's drinking coffee and reading the news. Ayanda serves him breakfast without looking up. After breakfast, he says to her, "It's going to be a busy day. Don't bother me until lunch." She nods, her stomach clenching. He goes into his office. Half an hour later, he calls Minseok. His voice comes from behind the closed door, quiet but sharp. "Minseok, come to me. Right now." Ayanda is washing dishes in the kitchen. She hears the assistant walk quickly down the hallway. The door to the office closes. Silence. Then voices. Quiet but tense. She can't make out the words, but the tone. Taeyong's tone is icy. Minseok's answers are short, abrupt. Ayanda wipes her hands. She moves closer to the hallway, as if to wipe away dust. She listens. "So, they saw it?" asks Taeyong. "No. The files were copied, but they couldn't be opened," says Minseok. "It wasn't a working flash drive. It was personal." "What was on it?" "Photos, old ones, your childhood ones, a scan of your first passport, your mother's medical records, personal notes, nothing commercial." Ayanda freezes against the wall. The air stops entering her lungs. Personal photos, baby photos, medical records. The blackmailer said it was a trade secret, that it was important for Taeyong's business. He lied. Why? Why does he need childhood photos? Who could have done this? Taeyong's voice is dangerously quiet. "The camera in the hallway only captured you and her that day. And the girl, no one else. There are no cameras in the office, just like you wanted. So someone got in with a key." "Yes. Or someone who had access to the key." Silence. Long, heavy. Ayanda feels the floor shift beneath her feet. She leans against the wall to steady herself. He knows. He doesn't say it yet, but he knows. Only she had access, only she was in the house, and she didn't steal business secrets. She stole his past, his childhood, his personal pain. Why? Why would a blackmailer need this? The office door suddenly opens. Minseok comes out. His face is stony. He walks past without looking at her. Taeyong's voice comes from the office. He's not calling her. He's just speaking, quietly but loud enough to be heard in the hallway. "Ayanda, please come in." This is not a question. It is a sentence. She pushes herself away from the wall. Her legs can barely move. She walks toward the office, toward the open door. Inside, Taeyong is sitting at his desk. In front of him lies that same black flash drive. He looks at it, then slowly looks up at her. His face doesn't express anger. It expresses something worse, cold, indifferent disappointment. He knows. And now she has to tell him why. And she doesn't have a good answer. Only the truth, which sounds like an excuse, and a terrible realization. The blackmailer tricked her twice. First, he forced her to steal. And now, perhaps, he set her up so Taeyong would kick her out. And then Jimin would be left defenseless. Completely. Taeyong returns home earlier than planned. The meeting was canceled. He goes to his office to get some forgotten documents. He opens the door and pauses on the threshold. Something is wrong. The air. The office smells of more than just wood, books, and his own cologne. There's another scent, faint but alien, the sweet, cheap scent of someone else's perfume. He enters slowly. His eyes scan the room. Everything is in its place. The books are neatly arranged on the shelves. The chair by the table is positioned correctly. But there is a smell. It hangs in the air, especially by the table. Taeyong approaches his workstation. He reaches for the top drawer. He turns the handle. The drawer is locked. He takes the key from his pants pocket and opens it. Everything is just as he left it. Folders, tablet, black. The flash drive is in its place in the corner. He picks it up and looks at it. Then he brings it to his nose. Yes, the scent of perfume is coming from it. Faint, but noticeable. So someone handled it. Someone who uses that perfume. Neither Ayanda nor Minseok use it. He knows that. He puts the flash drive back, closes the drawer. He stands and thinks. His instincts, always sharp, are now screaming about a violation. Someone has touched his space. Not to take something, but to put something down? Or to look at something? He leaves the office. He goes to the kitchen. Ayanda is chopping vegetables for dinner. She turns at his footsteps, and he sees a flicker of fear in her eyes for a split second. Then she quickly looks down. "Is everything okay?" she asks, too cheerfully. "Yes," he answers curtly. And he leaves, leaving her alone with her fear and the alien scent that now lingers in his office. 2 days pass. Taeyeon watches. Ayanda is nervous. She makes small mistakes, putting her cup on the wrong side, messing up her schedule. She barely makes eye contact. One morning, when she brings fresh towels into the office, he stops her. Ayanda? She freezes with the towels in her hands. Yes, Mr. Taeyong? Were you in the office while I was away? Last Tuesday? The question is as direct as a blow. The air in the room freezes. She turns pale. Her lips tremble slightly. No, of course not. I only clean when you say so. He looks at her, silent, waiting for her to look up at him. But she can't. She's looking off to the side, at the bookshelf. Her knuckles are white from how tightly she's gripping the towels. Okay, he says finally. His voice is neutral, but there's an icy hardness to it. You can go. She nods quickly and almost runs out of the office. Taeyeon leans back in his chair. She lied. He's absolutely certain of it. But why? What could she be looking for? Or what was she supposed to hide? And that smell. He remembers. Once, a few weeks ago, he saw her leaving the pharmacy with a small box. Children's sedatives. Then he didn't pay attention. But now he thinks. Stress, fear, and lies. Taeyeon calls Min-seok. They talk in the office with the door closed. Check the gate surveillance footage for the last 2 weeks, Taeyong says. Look for unfamiliar cars. The ones that show up repeatedly, especially on days when I wasn't home. Min-seok nods. He returns an hour later with a laptop. There's one, he says, showing the footage. A gray sedan. The license plates are dirty, illegible. It showed up 4 times, always during the day. Never stopped at the gate, just drove slowly past. Sometimes it circled the neighboring streets. Taeyong looks at the screen. The car is ordinary, unremarkable, but the pattern is clear. Surveillance. The last time she was here was Tuesday. The day you left for the whole day, Min-seok adds. Taeyeon slowly closes her laptop. The picture comes together. Surveillance of the house. Ayanda, clearly hiding something and afraid. The smell of someone else's perfume in the study. And Jimin's missing drawing, which she let slip last week in a conversation with her daughter. Don't worry about the drawing. We'll draw a new one. Someone is pressuring Ayanda. Someone forced her to come into the office and do something with the flash drive. Maybe test it, or switch it. But why? If the goal is industrial espionage, then why get involved with a cleaning lady? It's too risky and unreliable. No, the goal is different, personal. It's connected to Ayanda herself, and this someone is using her fear as leverage. Find that car, Taeyong says quietly, and find out who's driving it. Evening. Taeyeon goes into the kitchen for water. Ayanda stands at the stove, stirring soup. Jimin sits at the table, drawing. She is absorbed in her work. Taeyong pours himself a glass of water. He's about to leave, but Jimin looks up at him. Pan Taeyeon. Her voice is quiet and serious. Yes? Why are you sometimes sad? The question catches him off guard. Ayanda freezes at the stove. I'm not sad, he says, but his voice sounds softer than usual. You look like that guy in Mom's photo, Jimin continues, not noticing how Mom slowly turns to face her, her face turning white as a sheet. That guy looks sad too. He has the same eyes. Taeyeon looks at the girl, then turns his gaze to Ayanda. She's standing, holding the handle of a saucepan, staring at her daughter with such horror that it's visible even in the dimly lit kitchen. What photo? Taeyeon asks calmly. Jimin? Mom shows it sometimes when she thinks I'm sleeping. There's an uncle in a gray jacket. He looks like you, only without the smile. Ayanda drops her spoon. It hits the floor with a loud clang. Everyone jumps. Jimin, come to your room, please, Ayanda says, her voice shaking. But I didn't finish drawing. Right now! The harshness in her mother's voice makes the girl slip out of her chair in fear and quickly leave. A heavy silence falls over the kitchen. Taeyong looks at Ayanda. She doesn't move. She's looking at the floor. Do you have a photo of the person making the threat? He asks. The question doesn't sound like an accusation. It sounds like a statement. She nods slowly. She can't speak. Show me. She goes into her room, her hands shaking as she takes an old phone from under the mattress. She turns it on. She finds a photo. It's a screenshot. Poor quality. It shows a man leaving a store. His face is barely visible, but the silhouette and jacket are the same as in Jimin's drawing. She took this photo long ago, in another life, when she was afraid of him. She hands the phone to Taeyong. He stares at the screen for a few seconds. Until the end of the day, he says quietly. You come into the office and tell me everything. The whole truth. Otherwise, I'll find it out myself, and it will be worse for you. He hands over the phone and leaves. Ayanda is left alone in the kitchen, the silence around her humming like the harbinger of a storm. She arrives at the office exactly an hour before sunset. She couldn't bring herself to come any earlier. Taeyong is sitting at the table. He's not working. He's waiting for her. There's a piece of paper on the table in front of him. It's covered with bullet points. He doesn't offer her a seat. She stands in front of the table, like a defendant. Sit down, he says finally. She sits on the edge of the chair. He takes the sheet of paper and reads it aloud in an even, emotionless voice. First, you've been nervous for the last 2 weeks. You're making mistakes. Second, you lied to me about the office. Third, Jimin drew a stranger and the drawing disappeared. Fourth, you're hiding that person's photo. Fifth, there was a strange smell in the office the day you were here. Sixth, the same car has been showing up near the house several times. Seventh, you took something from my flash drive or put something on it. He puts the sheet of paper aside and looks at her. I don't want to speculate. I don't want to scream. Tell the truth, now. This is your last chance to speak up. Then I'll start looking for the answers myself. And believe me, I will find them. Ayanda looks at his hands. They lie calmly on the table. But there's such a power in that calm that she wants to sink into the ground. She opens her mouth to lie again, to say it's all a lie, but the words won't come. Before her sits a man who sees right through her, who has assembled all the pieces of the puzzle. All that remains is to confess. She lowers her head. Tears fall onto her knees. I'll tell you everything, she breathes out. The whole truth, she begins to speak. At first, quietly, haltingly. Then the words flow like a torrent, as if a dam were breaking. She says her name isn't Ayanda. Her real name is Naomi Kamba. She arrived from Zambia 4 years ago. She had a visa and a job at a hotel. There she met a man. He called himself Isaac. He was charming, smart. He had connections. He promised her a future. She got pregnant. And then she found out Isaac had another family in another country, and that he was involved in petty scams. He involved her in one of them without asking. He used her documents. When she realized what was happening, she became afraid. For herself, for her unborn child. Isaac became aggressive. He said she was his property, that she wouldn't go anywhere. She ran away. A few weeks before the birth, she changed her name. She forged documents with the help of an acquaintance for a lot of money. She gave birth to Jimin alone. She worked wherever she could. Then she got a job with him, with Taeyong. And for the first time in a long time, she felt safe. And then, in the park, Isaac found her, or someone who works for him. He demanded money. Then he ordered her to copy the files from the flash drive. He said it was a trade secret, that it would hurt Taeyong's business. She didn't want to, but he threatened Jimin. He showed her he could enter the house. He broke the toy. She did it. She stole. She betrayed his trust. She knows it's unforgivable. She says all this without looking up. Then she falls silent. The office is quiet. Only the ticking of the clock. Taeyong sat motionless. He listened without interrupting, his face stony. Why didn't you come to me right away? He asks finally. His voice is still even. I was scared. I thought you'd kick us out, and then we'd be alone. And he'd find us, and do something terrible to Jimin. Better to be a thief than to lose her. She's crying no longer quietly, but loudly, sobbing. All her pride, all the courage she'd built up over the years, has crumbled to dust. I did it. It's my fault. I'm ready to leave. Right now. Just please, if possible, give me some time to find another place for Jimin. I beg you. She looks up at him with a tear-stained face. Her eyes reflect utter hopelessness and a readiness to accept any punishment. Taeyong looks at her. He doesn't see a thief. He sees a cornered animal, a mother who committed a crime out of desperation. He sees the same vulnerability that once touched him when the little girl hugged his leg. He pushes back his chair and stands up. He goes to the window and looks out into the dark garden. You're staying, he says without turning around. She freezes, not understanding. What? You stay here, in this house. This man, Isaac, he deals with me now, not with you. He turns to face her. His eyes are no longer icy. A cold, clear fire burns in them. The fire of someone who has just realized that his territory has been encroached upon and who now knows the enemy's name. You will do everything I say, and I will deal with your past. Once and for all. Ayanda sits, Unable to believe what she's hearing, she expected wrath, banishment. Instead, she received protection. Again. But now she understands. This isn't forgiveness. This is war. And she's just dragged the most dangerous man she knows into it. Taeyong looks at Ayanda, at her shocked face. He doesn't smile. His expression doesn't change. He simply turns to his laptop and taps the keys a few times. A video appears on the screen. The quality is good. You can see the sidewalk, benches, and trash cans. It's footage from a nearby store's CCTV camera. It shows the park where they met. Ayanda sees herself on the screen. She's standing by the sidewalk. A gray car approaches. She reaches out the window. Then a bag falls to the sidewalk. The car drives away. Taeyong pauses the recording and zooms in. The camera has captured the car's license plate. It's not perfect, but it's legible. "We found the car 3 hours after you told us about the meeting," Taeyong says calmly. "It was rented with fake documents, but the renter was photographed, and there are fingerprints on the inside." He switches to the next image. It's a photo from a database. It's not very clear, but Ayanda freezes. She recognizes that face immediately, even after 4 years. The same cold eyes, the same hard lines around the mouth. He's aged. He looks more worn, but it's him, Isaac Mueba, the very same one. "His real name is Isaac Mueba," Taeyong says. "He's not just your ex, he's Jimin's father. According to the tests I managed to order." Ayanda can't speak. She looks at the photograph, and her world collapses completely. He found them. Not by accident. He was looking, and now he's here. Ayanda sits in complete silence. Her ears are ringing. She thought Isaac had disappeared, that he had returned to his other family, or was hiding from justice somewhere far away. She hoped he had forgotten about her, but he hasn't forgotten. And he's not just a scammer. Judging by what Taeyong says, he's gotten involved in something more serious. "He's wanted in 3 countries for real estate fraud and money laundering," Taeyong continues. He clicks the keys, opening another file. His connections extend to several criminal groups. He doesn't act alone, and he doesn't just want your money. He wants access to me. He looks at Ayanda. "You became his key. You live in my house. You have access." He decided to exploit that. First, he tried to blackmail you into giving him money. Then, when you stole the wrong files, he realized he could get more, much more. Ayanda slowly shakes her head. "I don't understand. Why would he need baby photos? Your personal information? To blackmail me," Taeyong says simply. "To discover my weaknesses. To find what's dear to me. Or to compromise me. Personal information is sometimes worth more than a trade secret, especially for someone in my position." He closes the laptop. He thinks he keeps you in fear, that you're his pawn. But now he's the pawn. "Because I know who he is, and I know what he wants." He stands up and begins pacing slowly around the office. "He needs access to my real secrets, to financial schemes, to negotiations, to something he can sell to my competitors or use to exert pressure. The baby photos are reconnaissance, a target practice." Taeyong stops in front of Ayanda. "We'll give him what he wants." She looks at him, not understanding. "How?" "You'll call him. You'll tell him I'm panicking. I noticed the data is missing, but I think it's hackers. I'm getting a new, top-secret flash drive with my most important documents, and I'm leaving again tomorrow for the whole day. And you can copy that data too, but this time, you'll demand something in return." "What?" "An official waiver of rights to Jimin. A signed document. You'll say that this is your price, that you're no longer afraid of money. You're afraid that he'll come and take your daughter away one day. You want guarantees." Ayanda listens, and a tiny spark of hope ignites in her chest, but it's immediately extinguished by fear. He won't agree. He's her father. He's not the father. He's a genetic donor, Taeyong says coldly. He's never seen her. He wasn't interested. He's using her as leverage against you. The waiver is just a piece of paper. He can sign it, get the information, and then change his mind. But he'll need it to reassure you. He'll agree. He sits down across from her. "But we won't give him real data. We'll give him specially prepared information, one that will lead him straight into the hands of the police, or his own competitors. We'll catch him trying to exploit it." The next 2 days pass in feverish but quiet preparation. Taeyeon and Minseok work in the office behind closed doors. Ayanda goes about her usual duties, but inside, she's tense. Jimin senses something is wrong. She becomes quieter, clinging more to her mother. She doesn't draw. She just sits and looks out the window. "Mom, are we leaving?" she asks one evening. "No, baby, we're staying. Everything will be okay." Ayanda says, but her voice sounds uncertain. Meanwhile, Taeyong is creating a legend. He and Min Seok prepare a flash drive. They fill it with false financial statements, fake contracts, and fictitious correspondence with fictitious partners. Everything appears completely credible, but the documents are booby-trapped. Non-existent bank accounts that are actually controlled by the financial police, references to people who are undercover, agents, and details of deals that are booby-trapped. Anyone who tries to exploit this information will immediately fall under the surveillance of the intelligence services, or face the wrath of very dangerous people whom Taeyong knows personally. They also prepare a document renouncing parental rights. Taeyong's lawyer drafts it flawlessly. All that remains is Isaac's signature. On the third day, Taeyeon calls Ayanda. A simple phone with an untraceable SIM card lies on the table. Call him. Tell him what we discussed. Don't improvise. If he asks an unexpected question, tell him you need to think about it and call him back. The main thing is, don't panic. Ayanda picks up the phone, her fingers icy. She dials a number she knows by heart, even though she'd rather forget. Beeps. 1, 2, 3. Hello? Says a familiar voice, cold, wary. It's me, Naomi, Ayanda says, her voice hoarse. A short pause. So, have you changed your mind? You didn't throw the money away, I hope? I need something else. Not just money. What? The document. You're giving up your parental rights to Jimin. Officially, sign the papers. Laughter on the other end of the line. Dry, unpleasant. Why do I need this? So I know you'll never come for her. So I have guarantees. Otherwise, I won't give you what you want this time. What do you have this time? The voice becomes interested. What you really asked for, not baby photos. Real data, financial reports, contracts, anything that can be sold. The owner has a separate flash drive. He's leaving tomorrow for the whole day. I can copy it, but only if you give me what I ask for. A long pause. Ayanda hears Isaac chewing on the other end, thinking it over. Okay, he finally says. I'll prepare the document. Tomorrow, same time, same place. Bring the flash drive. I'll give you the signed paper. And a bag of money, twice the size of last one. Just a document. I don't need money. As you say. See you tomorrow, Naomi. Don't let me down. He hangs up. Ayanda lowers the phone. She looks at Taeyong. He nods. Everything is going according to plan. But there was more than just greed in Isaac's eyes when he said, "Don't fail me." There was something else, something predatory, and Ayanda senses he suspects a trap, but his greed is stronger than his caution, and that makes him even more dangerous. She'd just challenged the beast to an open hunt, and tomorrow they'd find out who the prey would be. The evening of the show arrives. The sky is gray, rain is forecast. Ayanda again tells Jimin she'll be going to the pharmacy for a bit. This time, the girl clings to her. Don't go, Mom. There's going to be a storm. I'll be quick. I promise, Ayanda says, kissing the top of her head. Her heart breaks. Taeyong and Min Seok coordinate their actions via radio from a car parked 2 blocks away. 3 members of Taeyong's security detail are stationed around the park. Their task is to follow Isaac after the transmission, determine where he'll go, and who he'll meet. Ayanda walks toward the park. In her hand, she holds a flash drive wrapped in a regular handkerchief. In her pocket, she has a second phone for contacting Taeyong. She arrives early, sits on the same bench, waits. This time, she's not just afraid, she's angry. A dull, cold anger at this man who barged into their lives and ruined everything again. The gray car arrives right on time. It stops. The window rolls down. Isaac is behind the wheel. This time she sees his full face. It has changed in 4 years. Aged, haggard. Deep lines of malice line the corners of his lips. His eyes look at her with open cruelty and contempt. There's not a drop of the charm that once captivated her in them, only calculation and hunger. Well, did you bring it? He asks. She silently hands over the package containing the flash drive. He grabs it, quickly unwraps it, and looks at the drive. Then he takes an envelope from the glove compartment and tosses it into her lap. Here's your stupid document, signed and certified with my magnificent autograph. She opens the envelope. Inside is a single sheet of paper, a waiver of rights. At the bottom is a signature. It looks legitimate, but she knows it's worthless. That's it? He asks. She nods. The corner of his mouth twitches in a semblance of a smile. You know, Naomi, you've gotten braver. Or just dumber. It doesn't matter. He starts the engine. See you later. The window rolls up. The car takes off abruptly and disappears into the evening twilight. Ayanda sits with her useless document in her hands. She's done her part. Now it all depends on Taeyong and his men. Taeyong listens to reports on the radio. His men are following the gray car. Isaac is acting strangely. He's not heading to any office, not meeting with anyone. He's simply circling the city, making unexpected turns, driving into dead ends. He's checking to see if anyone's following him, Minseok says from the next car. 40 minutes later, Isaac suddenly stops in a deserted industrial area. He gets out of the car with his laptop, sits down on the curb, and plugs in the flash drive. Taeyong, listening to the live feed from one of his men's microphones, frowned. This wasn't going according to plan. He was supposed to deliver the data to his employers. On the other end of the radio, Isaac can be heard muttering something under his breath as he scrolls through files. Then comes his short, harsh laugh. "Stupid," he can be heard saying. "Did you think they could fool old Isaac? These figures, this contract with Severnaya Stahl, it doesn't exist. I checked yesterday. It's a dummy. A good one, but a dummy nonetheless." Taeyong clutches the radio. The plan failed. Isaac was smarter. He didn't take the bait. He'd tested it beforehand. Then Isaac's voice becomes quieter, angrier. "So they decided to play. Fine, let's play. But in my opinion," you can hear him slam the lid of his laptop and get into his car. The engine starts with a roar. "He's coming! Where to?" one of the people reports. Isaac's car pulls onto the highway and picks up speed. The direction. Taeyong looks at the map on his tablet. The trajectory leads directly to his house. A cold rage rises in his throat. He understands everything. "Everyone come home! Urgently! He's coming our way!" he orders into the radio. Ayanda has just returned home. She's trying to calm Jimin, who's on the verge of tears from fear of the storm. Suddenly, headlights burst into the yard, the sharp sound of brakes, a loud, brazen honk. Ayanda runs to the window. A gray car is parked at the main gate. Isaac gets out. He doesn't try to open the gate. He just stands there and starts screaming. "Naomi, come out! I know you're here, and bring my daughter out here. I have a right to see her." His voice is loud, rough, full of anger. He slams his fist on the iron bars of the gate. The ringing echoes throughout the quiet courtyard. "I'm her father! By law! You have no right to hide her from me. I'll call the police. I'll call social services. I'll tear this chicken coop of yours down brick by brick." Ayanda clutches Jimin to her in terror. The girl hears screams. She clings to her mother. "What does he want, Mom? Why is he screaming?" She trembled. Ayanda whispers, but she doesn't believe her own words. Taeyong and Minseok drive up from the other side. They see this scene. Taeyong gets out of the car. His face is a mask of icy calm, but inside, everything is seething. Jimin breaks away from Ayanda and runs to another window, where she has a better view of the gate. She sees a man kicking the gate and shouting something incomprehensible. She sees his face distorted with anger. She slowly returns to her mother, her large eyes full of tears and confusion. "Mom!" Her voice is barely audible. "Is this my dad? The one who's gone?" The question hangs in the air, sharp as a blade. Ayanda doesn't know what to say. How to explain to a 4-year-old that a father is more than just the one who gave birth, that he can be bad, dangerous, that he can hurt. "He is the man who gave birth to you," she forces out. It's not an answer, and they both know it. "But why is he so angry?" Jimin asks. And the question is so full of childish pain and injustice that it takes Ayanda's breath away. "Because some people become like that. They forget how to be good." "Will he take me?" is a whisper of utter horror. "No!" Ayanda hugs her as tightly as he can. "Never. I won't allow it. And Mr. Taeyong won't allow it either." She says these words and hopes that it is true. Taeyong approaches the gate from the inside. He's not in a hurry. His steps are precise and confident. Minseok follows behind him, his phone at the ready. Isaac notices him. He stops screaming. He looks at Taeyong through the bars of the gate. His gaze is a mixture of hatred and calculation. "Ah, the boss!" he shouts. "Finally showed up. Let my daughter out, or I'm calling the police right now and telling them how you're harboring illegal immigrants and child abductors." Taeyong stops a meter from the gate. He looks at Isaac as if he's examining something unpleasant but harmless. "You're mistaken," he says in a calm, even voice, audible even through the gate. "No children are being hidden here. My coworker and her daughter live here legally, and you're trespassing on private property and making threats." "Her daughter?" Isaac lets out a fake laugh. It's my blood! My daughter! I have rights! You only have the right to serve time in prison in 3 countries, Taeyong says, equally calm. Fraud. Forgery. I think the police will be happy to talk to you, especially with the evidence I have. Fear flickers across Isaac's face, but it's quickly replaced by a new flash of anger. He realizes his bluff hasn't worked, that this man knows too much about him. You think you can get away with this? He hisses, pressing his face against the bars. I'll get you. Through the courts. Through social services. Through the press. I'll make a story out of this. A rich man hides a child from a poor father. Let's see how you like the attention. Taeyong doesn't answer. He just stands there and stares. His silence angers Isaac even more. Fine, he screams in impotent rage. You don't want to play fair? Fine, I'll be back. And I won't be back alone. With justice. In a fit of anger, he bends down, grabs a handful of gravel and dust from the ground, and throws it through the gate bars right into Taeyong's face. Dust and small stones hit his forehead and cheeks. He doesn't even blink. He doesn't look away. Isaac, seeing that this had no effect, spits in the direction of the gate, turns around, and walks quickly to his car. He gets in, turns around with a screech of tires, and drives away. Taeyong stands still. Min Seok approaches cautiously. Everything is fine? Taeyong slowly wipes the dust from his cheek with a handkerchief he takes from his pocket. His eyes still stare in the direction the car left. There's no anger in them. There's a cold, ruthless determination. It's just the beginning, he says quietly. He'll go to court. And we'll be ready. He turns and walks toward the house. Now he faces the most difficult task, explaining to Ayanda that her worst fears are coming true. The war has entered the open, and it now has a face and a name, and it's not going to back down. A week later, an official envelope arrives from the court. Ayanda opens it with trembling hands. Inside is a notice. Isaac Mueba has filed a lawsuit to establish paternity and determine the child's place of residence. Taeyong takes the documents. He reads them silently, his expression growing increasingly stony. Isaac has prepared himself. Attached to the lawsuit are documents, certificates of non-existent employment, references from fictitious people, letters stating that he has spent his entire life searching for his daughter and dreaming of their reunion. Even photographs of him holding a pillow wrapped in a blanket, supposedly of Jimin's newborn. Everything is fake, but at first glance, it seems convincing. He doesn't want the girl, Taeyong says, putting the papers aside. He wants leverage. If the court recognizes him as the father and grants him any rights, he'll be able to blackmail us constantly, demand money, threaten to take her away if we don't pay. Ayanda sits with her head in her hands. What are we going to do? Fight, Taeyong answers simply. He has fake papers. We have reality. Jimin has lived here for 4 years. She is healthy, goes to the studio, and is loved here. We have witnesses, and we have his real past, which we will now piece together. But there's no longer the same confidence in his voice. A trial isn't a duel in a dark alley. It's a procedure, papers, witnesses, and Isaac, it seems, has the money or connections to manipulate this procedure. After reviewing the petition, the court makes an interim decision. Until the genetic testing is conducted and the paternity issue is resolved, Isaac is allowed short visits with the child. These visits are to be held once a week, for 2 hours, in the presence of a social worker. The location is a neutral children's room at the Social Support Center. For Jimin, this becomes a new nightmare. The first meeting, a small room with toys. The social worker is a young woman with a kind face. Isaac arrives in a clean suit, trying to smile. Hello, Jimin, he says, in an unnaturally sweet voice. I'm your dad. Jimin hides behind Ayanda's leg. She doesn't look at him. She remembers his screams at the gate, his angry face. Go play with daddy, the social worker says softly. Ayanda forced to let go of her hand. Jimin takes 2 steps and stops in the middle of the room. She stands there with her head down, her fists clenched. Isaac comes over and squats down in front of her. I brought you a present. He holds out a brightly colored doll. Jimin doesn't take it. She turns away. His smile immediately vanishes. His eyes turn cold. Take the doll when an adult gives it to you, Ayanda says quickly. Give her time, play. Isaac glares at her. For the rest of the meeting, Jimin sits in the corner on an ottoman, silent. She doesn't answer his questions. She doesn't look at him. She just waits for it to be over. When 2 hours finally pass, Isaac stands up. He approaches Ayanda and says quietly, "So the social worker won't hear. You've turned her against me. This won't work." He leaves. Jimin exhales and runs to his mother, clinging to her so tightly that his fingers turn white. Min Seok continues his work, tracking Isaac's every move, and a few days later, he arrives with disturbing news. "He found a weak link," Min Seok says. Taeyong in the office. Park Young-ho, junior accountant at the branch. "He has gambling debts." Isaac offered him money through intermediaries, Taeyong asks, for false testimony, that he allegedly was here, in the house, on business, and that he saw the girl living in poor conditions, that they kept her locked up, didn't let her go for walks, that Ayanda rude to her. Complete nonsense, but in court it might sound convincing. Taeyong stares out the window silently. The enemy attack is coming on all fronts. Legal, psychological, now through slander. Do we have evidence of Yeonho's connection with Isaac's people? There are photographs of their meeting, and a recording of a conversation in which amounts are discussed, but without specifics. Not enough. We need more. Or force Yeonho to recant his words before the trial. He's afraid of Isaac, and he's afraid of going to jail for perjury. Taeyong turns around. Then we need to offer him something he's more afraid of. Talk to his wife. She doesn't know about the debts, and she doesn't know what he's planning to do. Offer to help her, and ask her if she wants her husband to go to jail and their family to be left on the street. Min Seok nods. It's a dirty game, but there's no choice. Isaac plays dirty, and they must respond in kind. 3 weeks pass. The meetings continue. Jimin gets used to the ritual a little, but not to Isaac. She remains silent. At the third meeting, the social worker leaves the room for 5 minutes to answer an urgent call. As soon as the door closes, Isaac changes. His fake smile disappears. "Stop sulking," he tells Jimin sharply. "You're coming with me today. I have a surprise." Jimin looks at him with wide eyes and shakes his head. "I'm not asking. I'm saying. Get up." He grabs her hand and pulls her toward the exit. Jimin resists. She braces her feet on the floor. "No! I don't want to! Mom! Your mother abandoned you!" he hisses. "You don't need her. Let's go!" He pulls harder. Jimin loses her balance, her feet slipping on the linoleum. She sees the door handle. With the last of her strength, she rushes towards it and grabs it with both hands. And screams. Not crying, but screaming, loud and piercing. "Mom, no! Help!" The door swings open. A breathless woman bursts in. The social worker and Ayanda, who was waiting in the hallway, witnessed the scene. Isaac tugging at her daughter's hand, which she clung to like an anchor. "What's going on?" The social worker almost screams. Isaac immediately lets go of Jimin's hand and steps back. His face becomes kind again. "She fell. I helped her up, and she got scared." Jimin breaks free and runs to Ayanda, burying his face in her dress. Her entire body trembles violently. Ayanda says, hugging her daughter, "He tried to take her away. I heard it." The social worker looks at Isaac with a new, wary expression. "The meeting is over. I'll have to describe this incident in my report." Isaac doesn't make excuses. He just looks at Ayanda and Jimin. There's a promise in his eyes. He hasn't forgiven this. He will come back. The attempted kidnapping incident becomes a key element in the trial. The social worker files a detailed report. Taeyong's lawyer uses it to expose Isaac's true intentions. The judge, a stern-looking woman, reads the report. She looks at Isaac over her glasses. "Mr. Mueba, can you explain your actions?" "Your Honor, I just wanted to show her the park nearby. I didn't know it was against the rules. The child was screaming and resisting. Didn't you see that he was scared? She was just being capricious. Children often do that." The judge silently makes a note. She clearly doesn't believe him. But the law is the law, and biological paternity is a powerful argument. DNA testing confirms that Isaac is Jimin's father. "Your Honor," says Isaac's lawyer, "my client is the biological father. He wants to be reunited with his daughter. The only obstacle is the mother, who has turned the child against the father. We ask that the child be temporarily released to the father so that contact can be established." Ayanda squeezes Taeyong's hand under the table so hard the bones crack. They're losing. The law is on Isaac's side. Jimin's photo, the certificates from the studio, the reference from the kindergarten. Then she looks at Isaac's certificates. All perfect, as if printed on the same printer. "I have questions about the plaintiff's documents," she finally says. "They require further verification. In the meantime, given the incident during the meeting, I'm canceling the visits until the circumstances are clarified. The next hearing is in 2 weeks. This isn't a victory. It's a reprieve, but it's a chance. Now the judge has doubts. And that's enough for now. 2 weeks fly by in feverish preparation. Min Seok and Taeyong's lawyers work day and night. They access international channels and contact colleagues in other countries. Meanwhile, Isaac isn't sitting idle. He gives an interview to a small newspaper that specializes in tabloid scandals. An article appears. Rich businessman hides child from poor father. The facts are turned upside down, but the buzz is generated. More people show up for the next court hearing, even a couple of reporters. Isaac sits confidently. His lawyer again presses the natural rights of a father. Taeyong's lawyer asks to speak. Your Honor, we have new circumstances regarding the plaintiff's identity. Which ones? The judge asks. The lawyer hands over a folder. Official request and response from Interpol. Isaac Mweba is wanted by international police for large-scale fraud, document forgery, and money laundering in South Africa, Zambia, and Namibia. The arrest warrant is valid for 2 years. Silence reigns in the hall. Then a noise begins. Isaac jumps up from his seat. His face is white as chalk. It's a lie! It's a fake! He screams. The judge examines the documents. They contain seals, signatures, and watermarks. Everything is authentic. I don't know what this is. I'm being set up. Isaac's voice breaks. At that moment, the door to the courtroom opens. 2 men in formal uniforms and 1 in civilian clothes enter. They approach the judge and show their identification. They are the police. Isaac Mweba, one of the police officers says, you are being held on an international warrant. There are also new circumstances in the witness bribery case in this trial. Isaac retreats. He looks around like a cornered animal. His gaze briefly meets Taeyong's. There's no longer any malice in it, only panic and the realization of utter ruin. The police handcuff him. The courtroom is filled with a hubbub. The judge retires to deliberate. 10 minutes later, she returns. Isaac Mweba's claim is dismissed due to new circumstances. The question of paternity remains open, but in light of the events, the child's place of residence remains with the mother. The case is suspended, pending the completion of the criminal prosecution of the plaintiff. This is a victory, complete and unconditional. But for Jimin, this isn't a victory. For her, this whole time has been a living nightmare. After the trial, when they return home, the girl falls silent, completely silent. She stops talking. To her mother, to Taeyong, to herself. She just sits in her room, on the floor, hugging her bunny, which her mother sewed anew. She doesn't cry. She doesn't laugh. She just sits and stares into space. She stops drawing. Her notebooks and pencils lie untouched. She doesn't want to watch cartoons. She doesn't want to eat. She only falls asleep when exhausted, sitting on the floor with her head on her knees. Ayanda is desperate. She tries talking to her, hugging her, playing with her. Jimin doesn't push her away, but he doesn't respond either. It's as if she's retreated deep inside herself, to a place her mother can't reach. Taekyun calls a child psychologist, a soft-spoken woman in her 50s. She arrives, introduces herself to Jimin, and tries to communicate. Jimin remains silent. After the first meeting, the psychologist talks with Ayanda and Taeyeon in the living room. It's a reaction to extreme stress, she says. Her world collapsed. A bad dad appeared, yelling, threatening, trying to take her away. The court case, the adult conversations, the tension she felt from you. Her psyche couldn't handle it. She shut down to protect herself. What can we do? Ayanda asks, tears in her voice. Time, patience, and safety. She needs to feel again that this home is her fortress, that she is loved here and will never be given up to anyone, and that Mom and Pantheon are strong, that they can protect her. But for that, you first need to come to your senses. You are stressed too. Taeyong listens silently. He glances toward Jimin's room. He sees her small figure through the half-open door. She's sitting, hugging a toy, rocking slightly, like a wounded animal. He understands that capturing Isaac was only the beginning. Now they face the most difficult battle of all, giving the girl back her childhood. And he doesn't know how, but he knows he must try. Because she's part of this house now, part of his responsibility. And her silence is the loudest cry for help he's ever heard. 3 days pass. Jimin remains silent. Ayanda barely sleeps, sitting by her bed and stroking her hair. Taeyong is immersed in work, but his thoughts are also here, in this quiet room with the broken little girl. That evening, the phone rings in the kitchen. Ayanda automatically picks it up. Hello? Silence. Then a male voice, unfamiliar, with a slight accent. Tell your master that Isaac was not alone. He had friends, and they are not happy. Ayanda freezes, her hand gripping the phone so tightly that her fingers turn white. Who are you? What do you want? We need to keep everyone in line. Isaac is in jail. It's bad for business. He was supposed to squeeze money out of you. A lot of money. He failed. He's under arrest. It's over. Laughter on the other end of the line. Short, unpleasant. Not for you. We know where you live. We know your schedule. We know about the girl. She has quiet steps, right? Does she like to draw? A chill of dread washed over Ayanda from head to toe. They were watching. Not just Isaac. They saw everything. Don't touch her, she breathes. It's up to you. And your boss. Have $500,000 ready. In cash. Await instructions. If you call the police or try to escape, well, we'll find you. And then we'll talk to the girl for real. Without witnesses. Click. The connection was lost. Ayanda stands in the middle of the kitchen, unable to move. Then she slowly sinks into a chair. This isn't the end. This is only the beginning of something new. Something even more terrible. Isaac was a pawn, and now the real players have entered the game. She has to tell Taeyong right away. Taeyong listens to her story without interrupting. His face doesn't show surprise. It's as if he'd been expecting it. They're testing their boundaries, he says when she finishes. They needed Isaac as a tool. Now the tool is broken. They want compensation, or they want to show they're stronger. What are we going to do? Ayanda's voice cracked. We're leaving! Tonight! He doesn't ask her opinion. He gives Minseok orders in short, clear sentences. Everything is ready in 2 hours. Ayanda wakes up Jimin. The girl wakes up and looks at her mother with empty eyes. We're going on a trip, baby. To a new home. For a little while. Jimin doesn't ask where. She doesn't resist. She allows herself to be dressed in warm clothes. She takes her bunny. Her submission is more terrible than any tears. Taeyong's usual car, but a dark SUV with tinted windows. Minseok is behind the wheel. Taeyong sits next to him. Ayanda and Jimin are in the back seat. They drive out of the yard. Ayanda looks out the window at her home, which had become her only safe place. Now that too is being taken away from her. They drive for 2 hours. Out of town, into a forested area. The road narrows, then turns into gravel. Finally, they stop in front of a high fence, topped with barbed wire. The gates open automatically. Inside is a modern villa. Small but sturdy. Everything is illuminated. There's a guard at the gate. This is a safe house, Taeyong says, getting out of the car. It has everything you need, and there's 24-hour security. He doesn't say your new home. He says safe home, a temporary shelter. They walk inside. The interior is simple, characterless. The furniture is new but soulless, like a room in a nice hotel where no one really lives. Jimin looks around. Her gaze glides over the beige walls, the dark sofa. Nothing familiar, nothing her own. Ayanda feels the same way. They're back in a cage, now in the most modern and secure one, but a cage nonetheless. The days at the villa drag on slowly and monotonously, safe but joyless. The guards change every 12 hours. Their faces are always serious, and they barely speak. Minseok brings food and news every 2 days. Jimin remains silent. She wanders through the rooms, occasionally going to the window. Outside is a beautiful, well-kept garden, but behind a fence, like a zoo. She looks at the swing, rocking by itself in the wind, but she doesn't ask to go out. Ayanda is trying to get her life together. She cooks in the modern kitchen. She cleans, even though the place is already spotlessly clean. She feels like a guest, an unwanted guest. The reason all this is happening. Taeyong arrives the next day. He doesn't stay overnight. He brings things for Jimin. New picture books, a large modeling kit. He sits at the table with her and silently sculpts some grotesque animal. Jimin watches his large, clumsy fingers painstakingly roll little sausages out of Play-Doh. She doesn't help, but she doesn't leave either. One evening, Ayanda can't take it anymore. She finds Taeyong standing by the living room fireplace, staring into the empty flames. We can't live like this forever, she says quietly. She's fading before our eyes. She misses home, her bed, her chalkboard. Taeyong doesn't turn around. I know, but it's necessary now. Until the entire group is neutralized. Minseok is working on it. It won't be long now. What if it doesn't work? What if they find us here too? Then we'll go even further. But it will work out. I'll finish this. There's such iron confidence in his voice that Ayanda feels a moment of relief. But then she looks at Jamin's door and feels the heavy weight on her heart again. She owes this man more than ever. He saved them from Isaac. Now he's saving them from his accomplices. He's spending vast sums of money, his time, his resources, and all for them, for the woman who lied to him and stole from him, and for someone else's child. She doesn't know how to get it back, and she doesn't know how long he'll be willing to put up with it. 10 days pass. One morning, Taeyong arrives. His face is less tense than usual. "Pack your things, let's go home." Ayanda looks at him in disbelief. "That's it? It's over?" "It's over. 3 people were arrested last night. The leader and 2 of the perpetrators. They were found with a recording of that phone call, the kidnapping plan, and a bunch of other incriminating evidence. They're giving testimony. No one else will come for you." Ayanda closes her eyes. Tears of relief stream down her cheeks. She can't speak. They gather their few belongings. Jimin, hearing the word home, shows interest for the first time in a long time. She looks at her mother, then at Taeyong. "Home?" she asks quietly, hoarsely. It's the first word she's spoken in 2 weeks. "Yes, baby. Our home," Ayanda says, hugging her. "We're going home." Way back seems shorter. Jimin isn't sleeping. She sits and stares out the window, as if afraid to miss the familiar turns. As the car pulls into the familiar gate, Ayanda feels a huge weight lift off her. The house stands just as they left it, only brighter, sunnier. The car stops. Jimin jumps out first. She doesn't run to her room. She runs into the hall, straight to her corkboard. She stands in front of it for a few seconds, staring at the blank surface. All her old drawings are in a folder in the closet, neatly collected by Ayanda. Then Jimin turns, picks up his backpack, and takes out a notepad and pencil. She sits down right on the floor in the hallway and begins to draw. Quickly, confidently, with concentration. Ayanda and Taeyeon stand in the doorway and watch. They don't interfere. 15 minutes later, Jimin finishes. She stands up, picks up her drawing, and goes to the board. She finds a pin. She pins it. Then she steps aside and looks at her work. The picture shows a large, beautiful castle with a high tower. The castle stands on a green hill. Smoke billows from the chimney, and around the castle is a high, strong wall. But most importantly, inside the castle courtyard, right by the doors, stand 3 figures, a large one, a medium one, and a small one. They are holding hands, and above the castle wall, in the sky, shines a huge, smiling, yellow sun. Taeyong slowly approaches the board. He looks at the drawing long and carefully. Then he looks at Jimin. She looks at him, not looking away. There's a light in her gaze again, not as bright as before, but it's there. Taeyong says quietly, but very clearly, he's not saying this to Ayanda. He's saying this to Jimin. "You're safe. No one else will come. No one will take you away from here. This is your home, forever." Jimin listens, then slowly nods. She understands. Not all the words, but the meaning. The meaning of safety. She approaches Taeyong, takes his hand, and leads him to the drawing. She points her finger at the large figure in black, then at the sun. "The sun is watching over us," she says in her quiet voice, hoarse from long silence. "It's always outside now, not in the castle. Outside. It protects us." Taeyong looks at the sun in the drawing, then at the girl. He places his large hand on her head, a light, barely noticeable touch. "Yes," he says, "it protects us." Ayanda stands and looks at them, at her daughter, who is speaking again, at the man who saved them twice, at the picture of the 3 of them together, outside the walls of their shared castle. The fear hasn't completely gone away yet. The wounds haven't healed yet, but they're home, and the sun is really shining outside, and it seems to be shining for them now. A real, big, safe sun, which has finally risen again. The 3 of them stand in front of the board. The silence in the hallway is no longer empty, but filled with a quiet relief. Jimin lets go of Taeyong's hand and approaches his mother. She doesn't hug her, but simply presses her shoulder against her leg as before. Ayanda places her hand on her head. Taeyong takes a step back. He looks at this picture, a mother and daughter illuminated by the light from the chandelier in front of a child's drawing. There's nothing special about it. A simple, everyday scene. But for him, it means more than any deal he could win. "I'll be back late," he says, his voice casual, as if nothing has happened. But he doesn't say, "I need to go to the office," or "I have things to do." He says, "I'll be back," like a man informing his family of his plans. Ayanda nods. "Okay, will dinner be waiting?" He hesitates a little. Yes. If it's not too much trouble. He leaves. His footsteps echo loudly down the hallway. Then the sound of the door, the car starting up and driving away. Jameen looks at his mom. Will he come back? Yes, baby. He always comes back. Jameen nods. She believes him. Then she takes the drawing off the board and carries it to the kitchen. She takes an apple-shaped magnet and attaches it to the refrigerator. Now her castle and the sun are hanging in plain sight. She sits down at the table and takes a new sheet of paper. She starts drawing again. This time, just flowers. No castles, no walls. Just big, bright sunflowers. Ayanda is cooking dinner. She's chopping vegetables and her hands aren't shaking. She's listening to the soft scratch of a pencil on paper. It's the most beautiful sound in the world. When Taeyong returns, it's already dark. The house smells of stewed meat and rice. The light is on in the hallway. In the kitchen, Jimin is helping his mother set the table. She arranges the plates, very seriously and carefully. He takes off his coat and hangs it up. His gaze falls on the refrigerator, on the new picture of sunflowers, then on the castle with the sun hanging nearby. He walks into the kitchen. Jimin puts his plate on the table and looks at him. These are sunflowers, she says. They always look at the sun, even when you can't see it. He nods. Smart flowers. They're having dinner, not in deathly silence, but in a light, calm silence, occasionally broken by Jimin. She says little, but she does talk. About seeing a titmouse outside the window, about how she got the most perfect circle in the studio. Simple, childish things. After dinner, Jimin washes her hands and goes to her room. She doesn't ask her mother to babysit her. She just goes to bed because she's tired. Tired from the long day, from the traveling, from the fear that has finally subsided. Ayanda is washing the dishes. Taeyong stands by the window, looking out into the dark garden. Then, without turning around, he says, Tomorrow, Minsok will bring the documents. For guardianship, for permanent residence. Everything will be officially formalized, so that no more court cases or questions arise. Ayanda stops. She wipes her hands. Thank you for everything. He turns to her. You're welcome. It's logical. He doesn't say quote 3 or quote 4. He says quote 5. That's the most honest word he can find. It's a decision of the mind, not the heart. Or perhaps the mind and the heart are finally speaking in unison. He nods to her and goes into the office. But he's not working. He sits in a chair and stares at the dark screen of the computer. He listens to the silence of the house. It's not the silence that was before them. It's a quiet, living silence. The silence in which a child sleeps and a house breathes, full of life. He will get used to this silence. He already has.